What up, guys? We are live. So we have a really good show for you today. We got Duke joining us. He was on about a month ago, and I always like doing collabs with Duke. So we're gonna be reacting to a lot of really interesting Manosphere shit, and then we're gonna do an open panel where we're gonna open it up. Anyone come on, ask us questions, debate with us, whatever. But the first part of the show is gonna be reacting to a lot of really interesting videos. I think a lot of which you guys haven't seen. So we're gonna be doing that. Also, the don't be a little bitch rule is still in effect, meaning if you want to talk massive amounts of shit in the comments, you have to go on debate. You can't just hide in the comments because then you will get kicked, motherfucker. So yeah. Also, we always, if you're like, oh shit, I don't want to get kicked. Don't worry, we always give people warnings or whatever, so it's not going to happen accidentally. All right, cool. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Out here in the DC area, living it up, sort of. But I'm chilling, bro. What about you?
Pretty good, man. I've just been working, doing videos and shit. Same old. But yo, speaking of videos, all right, let me share this first one. I don't think you've seen this yet because I think I'm the first person on YouTube to drop this. This has been going around Twitter, but no one on YouTube has posted this. I got this directly from a Ukrainian soldier. So take a look at this.
Okay.
I'm here. Yeah. Welcome to Ukraine.
Is that Gonzalo?
Yes. He got raided by the Ukrainian police.
Bro, them Nazis got them secret police in there, bro. Holy shit. I'm not surprised. This is the second time this has happened, too.
Yeah. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, he's in a country that's in war, and he's like talking shit about that country. Obviously, they're not going to be like too happy about that.
Nah, and I think they took his didn't they take his passport and shit last time? The first time he took it, they grabbed him. The first time they nabbed him, they took his passport. So I think he's stuck there.
Yeah, well, I know the first time that people were thinking that he was dead, and I got a lot of shit because I dropped a video right around that time, which was. So the video I shot was before the whole he's dead thing came out. So I had this video ready to go, set to release because I typically do my things 3 days ahead of time. And the video releases on the same day that he was reported as dead. And people were giving me massive shit in the comments. Like I lost 100 subscribers from that video because people were like, that's so insensitive, man. And I was like, oh, motherfucker, like why the fuck did this guy have to die this day? And then it turns out he didn't die. So all those people came back.
Yeah, but I think so when he did that, I actually didn't even believe him. The reason why is because Gonzalo's always been that very theatrical kind of guy, very dramatic sometimes. So when that whole thing was going down, at first I was like, yeah, this is crazy, but like I don't know, like it was just so surreal. But then some parts of it was just it didn't make any sense, and ultimately you wish the best for him, right? But then seeing you're not even really surprised when you see stuff like that because, like what you said earlier, you're in a foreign country, that they're corrupt as shit, right? And they're fighting a war right now where they're trying to have like a media blackout in that country. So why is it that they're gonna? And I found it surprised he actually lasted this long, to be honest with you, because I'm like, dude. Them Ukrainian secret police don't play. Like that's a real thing. If they're going around nabbing people and forcing them onto the front lines of the war, I wouldn't be surprised if you're gonna nab some. What is he from again? He's from some South American country, but some South American guy.
I think he's Peruvian.
Peruvian, right? Yeah, they're gonna say, oh well, let's get this guy off the air because he's making us look bad. And realistically, he's exposing a lot about not only their country, but then it also seems like he's like a pro-Russian. So I mean, I don't know. Like I'm actually surprised he lasted that long.
But do you agree with the stuff he says? Because I think he's wrong about pretty much everything.
No, I actually agree with a lot of things he's saying. Believe it or not. Yeah, I do. I think some of his predictions can be a little bit, again, like I said, he's a man of theatrics. So it can be a little bit more a little embellished sometimes, but if you pay attention, there's some there's some sense to certain things that he says. Like there's some sense.
He's been pretty much wrong. He's been pretty much wrong about everything. I mean, he said Russia's not going to. He said that when Russia's not going to invade, Russia invaded. He said that they're just going to circle the city because their whole thing is they don't want to do they don't want to attack civilian targets like America does. Russia has taken out a lot of civilian targets just pretty much every prediction about the war. I mean, look, there's good and evil on both sides of every war. I'm not going to say sin for Ukraine, they're doing everything right. But like he seems to be like a hardcore like Putin fanboy, like where basically he believes that Russia is 100% the right and Ukraine is 100% the wrong. Which at the end of the day, like you can make the argument that America, might have incited this, right, with former stuff. But at the end of the day, Russia, started an illegal war. Right, they basically attacked for conquest. There was no real reason to attack. The pretext of like Ukrainians being Nazis was just BS that Putin made up. You know what they're actually saying now? One of the big Russian propagandists is that there's gay demons in Ukraine. I shit you not. They're saying there's gay demons and they have to fight the gay demons. You can't make this shit up. So
here's the thing though, like the Nazi part is actually true. The Azov battalion, or they're now the Azov what do you call it? The Azov regiment or something like that. They're a brigade, Azov brigade, because like they added more to it. That's actually a Nazi based military group. So he's right about that. And on top of that, another thing when he was talking, so the one thing when he was talking about Russia, right? Because the fog of war, it's really hard to predict on what's going on because Russia doesn't want a lot of information getting out, and Ukraine, they're doing a whole lot of misinformation so they can confuse, the rest of the world. But realistically, the way Russia fights their wars, it's definitely a lot different than the way like most, like NATO, for instance, go ask the bombings in is it Kosovo or Yugoslavia? It's one of those places where NATO bombed the fuck out of the country to oblivion, right? Or you look at America's tactics of war, right? And that's even a different story where they just blitzkrieg all the way through with a combination of air power, with a combination of overwhelming force, right? In Russia, I could see where that idea where he says no civilians are going to get hurt, or they try to minimize that. Obviously, you can't when you're throwing missiles and stuff like that indiscriminately. And a lot of people got to understand that Russia they have a lot of dumb weapons, and by dumb weapons, I don't mean like weapons that don't work. I mean like weapons that aren't like highly specialized and technical like we have in the West, right?
But they've been targeting some civilian targets. Like they've done.
Well, yeah. That's been done since like the war has progressed, though. I mean, I would say they have been doing that even since the Crimean takeover in 2014. But they have been trying to minimize that as much as possible, right? Even their war tactics, where they're like pushing incrementally, block by block, and then retreating when they're coming back. It's a completely different strategy. I think at first, when they launched that attack on Kiev, that first massive attack on Kiev, that was definitely a shit show. It was completely a shit show. And somebody like what I disagree with Gonzalo was his point was, well, it was kind of like a feint, right? The Russians were trying to do a feint to see if the Ukrainians were gonna quit and then give up easily. And when they found out they weren't, then they backed off and started doing that incremental approach. That was false. I think that when they sent those shock troops to Kiev, that was the main thing. It's just that the Russian logistics and a lot of things, they just got bogged down, and even the seasons.
Yeah, they're extremely incompetent.
Did you see that video of Yevgeny Prigozhin? He put out. Yeah, dude, that was bad. He definitely. I don't know if Ukraine is going to use a whole lot of that, but he definitely exposed the incompetencies within the Russian military, and that's actually starting to prove that's true.
Well, yeah, they are super incompetent because there's massive amounts of corruption. Like Russia, the big difference is that in America, generally speaking, in the military works on competence, right? It's on merit. So the best people go to the top. So our generals are typically, there's obviously a little bit of nepotism, are the best of the best, right? Russia doesn't work like that. Merit doesn't matter. Or the only thing that merit matters is loyalty. So people who are the best don't make it to the top. It's the biggest sycophants, the people who are like the biggest fucking, like the most loyal people to Putin will make it to the top. And thus, their whole top of the line, like, generals and all that is just extremely competent, right? When it comes to information gathering, when it comes to logistics, when it comes to combined arms warfare, right? And that's just like the big fundamental difference between the Russian military and the American military. And American military is just like, taking the nukes aside, right? Nukes aside, American military is like way more competent. Like they know how to fight combined arms warfare. And the only reason, one of the big reasons that Ukraine was able to even, push back the way they did is because after 2014, America sent its experts to train the Ukrainian troops. So, like 2014 with Crimea just completely rolled over, right? Like those Ukrainian troops completely dropped the ship, right? There was no resistance, right? But then America invested a good amount of money in training them. And then the second time Russia rolled around, they were a lot more prepared, So there's a big difference between like the way America, in terms of competence, America and Russia. But the issue is that Russia has nuclear weapons, so competence doesn't matter if there's a war between Russia and Ukraine, because all it takes is a few nukes and then everyone is vaporized, right? That's the issue. Because if Russia didn't have nuclear weapons, then no one would give a shit, because we all know without nukes, Russia has like no chance against NATO, like zero chance, right? But nukes completely.
I wouldn't say that, because technically they're fighting NATO right now. I mean, the combined arms of NATO, and they're kicking their ass. The only thing is that NATO isn't going as far as to dropping the jets and on Ukrainian doorstep. But I mean, they're taking out NATO tanks right now. And by NATO, I'm talking about American Abrams, even though they're the discounted versions. But we're talking about the Leopard 2 tanks and all these different weapons, and the HIMARS systems that Ukraine has. So even all with these technical systems, Russia is surprisingly, they're doing pretty well. And if you notice that, one thing I would give the Russians credit for, I mean, I'm not pro-Russia or anything like that, but it's one thing I give them credit for is their ability to adapt in the battlefield, right? Because we're seeing that right now, where at first they were like, all right, let's blitzkrieg and try to do certain things, and then now it's a completely different strategy where they're attacking, but it's not so much to really gain ground or hold on to ground. It's mainly to just deplete the entire Ukrainian military, which they did, because if that wasn't true, well, they wouldn't be short on not only on military power, but like on certain other munitions as well. So there's a lot of
Russia's becoming extremely depleted as well, which is why they have to get like weapons from like Iran and North Korea. Like that's not because North Korea is some kind of great weapons.
Do you believe that though? They have massive stocks of weapons. They're cranking out. They're
running out of a lot of weapons. Yeah, that's why they're now going back to using their 80s tanks, right? So there's like a modern tank, it will completely destroy a tank from the Cold War, right? So Russia has literally already run out of like their modern tanks, like the ones in like 2000 and up, and they're using like 60s and 70s tanks right now. Right. I mean, there's videos. You can see these tanks that should have been retired like decades ago, but they have a stockpile of them. They're using them because they don't even have any more modern tanks. Right. They're running out of all their smart weapons, as if, they're smarter weapons. Right. There's degrees. They're smart weapons whenever smart as our weapons. And Russia, I would say, has gotten humiliated. They can't even now hold on to basically the Donbass region. I mean, even that they're barely holding on to. Not really sure how that's going to go, but it seems like
they're doing really well. They're in 90% of Bakhmut right now.
They got pushed out of Kiev. They got pushed out of
Kiev. Because they
got pushed out of parts of the Donbass region. They what's it called? They've had 100,000 casualties. They've had insane loss of life. They've had to institute a draft. I mean, there's so many reasons. Like most Russian people are like fleeing. Pretty much every Russian person is like, what the fuck? Even the oligarchs are not happy about this because all their shit is being seized. So no one's really happy in Russia right now about the situation. Like everyone's pissed off about this.
Well, yeah, when no country's really happy when you're at war, right? Because war is costly to not only the soldiers, but it's also costly to the people that have to, help support it, and the soldiers that are out there fighting. But I think a couple of things where I would push back is I think Russia is a little bit different, right? Because I don't think first of all, I don't think they have enough smart weapons like smart tanks or stuff like that to even begin with, because the sanctions that they've been under for a very long time. But one thing I do understand is they have a lot of dumb tanks, and what I mean by that is tanks that don't really have the same capabilities as most
tanks from the 60s and 70s.
Yes, but they have a shit ton of them. So the Russian strategy, and this is part of their strategy, at least I think so, right? Why not just send out massive waves of these dumb tanks and dumb weapons, right? And then have that eat up the bulk of the Ukrainian resources or NATO resources. And then once that's done over with, then just send a crew to come in and clean up. That's what I think that's happening right now. At least that's their strategy.
Well, the Russian strategy since like the dawn of time has always been to just throw bodies at the problem, right? Like America. America tries to
not maybe in the past, yeah, but modern times, I think they've really adapted. I don't think they're really.
I mean, bro, there's videos. They've gone to like, dude, they've gone to like prisons and said, hey, if you fight on the front lines for 6 months, there's a good chance you'll die. But if you fight and you don't flee, we will release you from prison.
Do you think that was the Russian soldiers going into those prisons and recruiting the prisoners?
It was someone with authorization of Russia's government for sure. I don't know if it was directly a Russian soldier or it was a private contractor, but it was someone.
They're all private contractors. Matter of fact, you know what the crazy thing is?
Nothing in Russia happened without Putin's authorization, basically.
Right. But here's what's going to blow your mind: the fact that Russia has gotten this far in Ukraine was all because, well, I mean, in majority of the Wagner troops, like the people who are causing the most problems right now for Ukraine and NATO, it's been Wagner. So Russia hasn't even, I mean, aside from the Kiev feint that they sent, or not feint, but the Kiev attack that they sent in at the early stages of the war, realistically, right now, the troops that are giving these guys the most amount of problems were just the private military contractors from Wagner, right? The
Well,
people
but
who are
the
going to those
Wagner group,
prisons, hang on, the people who are going to those prisons and recruiting those prisoners were all Wagner troops. So the fact is, like, if you got a well-trained private military group like Wagner causing this much trouble for not only NATO but Ukraine itself, what are they doing right now? They're with this whole Prigozhin thing that went down. They're gonna pull out the Wagner team. And then send in the actual. Well, actually, it's not even Russian forces. They're gonna send in Chechen forces now to go in there and finish the job in Bakhmut. So the real troops. I mean, yeah, you're right. They did call for a new wave of mobilization, but that was partly because they realized that early attack that they did, they didn't have enough troops to do it. It was like they miscalculated completely how many people they needed to do this special military operation, which it was it wasn't enough. So then Putin was like, well, I need something. I gotta give more.
He's doing a second draft right now. It's just he's not calling the draft. So there's 2 drafts that are being done. So they do need more people. They are running out of bodies. That's why they are having to resort to private military and Chechens and stuff like that because the Russian military is like super depleted. Also, I just want to push back on one point. And I guess we can just like move on to the next thing. We can talk about this more if you want, but is that Russia is like fighting against NATO, right? So this is like the difference. Okay, imagine like who's like the best fighter? Floyd Mayweather, right? Would there be a difference between fighting Floyd Mayweather and fighting Floyd Mayweather if he's training me, right? So Floyd Mayweather's in my ear giving me tips. That's going to make me better, right? But that's not going to be nearly as good as actually fighting Floyd Mayweather. So that's the point I'm making. The NATO is not directly involved. They're not actually fighting, right? The NATO generals aren't fighting. They're providing them intelligence and they're providing them some weapons, right? There's a big difference between that.
Yeah, but like that what I would push back on that was initially, right? Because after the Crimean attack, NATO spent a lot of time building up those forces and training the Ukrainian troops because they started with initially 700,000 troops, right? Well trained by NATO and ready to go in case Russia would go ahead and launch an invasion. When they finally launched an invasion, you can see how far they've been depleted because there are reports of like people being nabbed by Ukrainian secret police and being sent to the front lines by force. Well, if Ukrainian soldiers weren't being depleted in the mass that they were being depleted in, why would someone like what was that guy, Volodymyr Zelensky? Why would he then want to go ahead and send these guys out to forcibly recruit these children? I won't say children, but these teenagers and people into their forces, right? And on top of that, now what I would say that you're right on is that I do think that Putin is employing certain tactics to go ahead and basically force a escalated form of aggression, right? Because what he's doing. Did you hear about that attack on the Kremlin?
Yeah.
So I think that was a false flag by Russia.
I thought that when I saw the news story come out, that was the first thing that came through my head. False flag operation. That's the first thing I thought of. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have any proof about that yet. But
Russia. The one thing you guys, I'm saying you guys, but because you're Russian. But one thing you guys have is ground attack. Like we're talking about, like anti missile defense. You guys have that in space because that's what you guys invested a lot of your infrastructure in. The Russians did, right? So my question was like, how is it that you let 2 drones just go in, like, unnoticed, unannounced, pass your air defense systems and just blow up your building? It didn't make any sense. And the thing is, Putin's rise to power was due to a false flag itself. I don't know if you remember the apartment buildings he blew up just to become. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was doing the exact same thing. The only thing that trips everything up right now for me is that what is it? Zelensky had this emergency trip to I forgot what was it, London or something like that, where he somehow went there. So that's what's tripping me up. But overall, I still think that attack was either a false flag or they let that happen because there's just no way. And the Russians came out with a very coordinated statement afterwards. It was interesting.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you on that. I think, like, again, we can't prove this, but I think you're most likely right because Putin is known for false flag operations. That's how he came to power. I think not a lot of people know that, right? But that's literally, he basically killed innocent Russian people to come to power. I mean, really.
Yeah,
Will
that guy's crazy, bro.
you agree with me that Putin has no ethics?
No, yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
he was I mean, you got to be some kind of psychopath to be a strong man, right?
Yeah, I guess there's different degrees of strongmans, but yeah. All right, let's we can discuss this. I guess maybe a little bit later. I want to get back through some of the other stuff because I feel like we're boring a lot of people with Russia stuff. All right, let's get into Sneeko. Totally different territory. Although it's funny because Fresh and Fit in a way has also been somewhat simping for Russia by having guys like Coach Red Pill on. But anyway,
pushing back on Fresh and Fit.
I realized today and like while traveling the world that I probably agree with women's idea of a high value man more than the Red Pill Space's idea of a high value man.
Oh no.
This is a massive fucking Sneeko moment. I would have never expected him to say that.
What is this?
What do you mean?
Like, what is he saying?
He's got to explain what he's. Okay, so let me explain it. Let me unpack it. So the Red Pill says that a high value man is someone who has a lot of money, who has status, who's jacked, right? What women typically when asked when they think of a high value man, they say someone who's honest, who's trustworthy, who's charismatic, who's funny. They talk about like personality traits versus the Red Pill talks about external like things like money and status or whatever, right? So he's saying that, hey, listen, after traveling the world, I think women are closer to the ball when it comes to what it means to be a high value man. Now, me personally, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Right, I don't think it's either or. I think the truth is somewhere in between what the Red Pill says and between what women says, right? But it's an interesting take because that's the exact opposite of what every Red Pillar believes. And now you're going to see he's going to get a lot of pushback from Fresh and Fit.
How dare you? I think women. Did you see how all of them? None of them brought up finances. Really, none of them brought up like the way you look. None of them talked about like what you wear, and all of it is about character. It's about
took the TradCon pill, bro.
Oh, Sneeko going
Here we go.
trad route.
Bro.
Yeah, it's about your personality.
It's important. It's important. TradCon pill, bro.
No, look, it's important to have wealth and it's important to have status in mind. But that's what this space is kind of avoiding a lot of the time is that that's an extremely important part of becoming high value. And if we actually want to raise a family, that's an extremely important part of male self-improvement.
Sneeko, a lot of people don't will sit there. How many guys do you know that could have been stars that got a girl pregnant in high school?
Now, once again, context. This is not geared towards families, geared towards becoming successful in a high value light.
Why the fuck does he wear sunglasses indoors? Whenever I see people wearing sunglasses indoors, I think it's so cringe. I don't know.
I don't trust people like that. If I can't look into your eyes and while you're indoors, like there's something you're hiding to me. That's what it's telling me. You're hiding something.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever you see people doing that, I think it's so cringe.
So who is the high value man? Who qualifies that? Because all the women in here, they just said that.
Zero.
He's actually asking good questions.
Personality.
Hold on, can you pause that real quick? Because because right now I actually agree with Sneeko. That's why I was just like, what is he saying, bro? Like this don't make it. He's on Fresh and Fit. This is about to be his Red Pill moment right here. Because my thing is, I felt though Sneeko has always been a guy who has been based, especially some of his older content, because even his older content, he used to clown Andrew Tate. Most people don't know that. Now he's now the Tate mini Tate or whatever the fuck he wants to call him. But this dude used to clown Andrew Tate, which is ridiculous, right? So when you listen to old Sneeko and then you listen to who he's become now, it's an obvious grift, obviously. So the fact that he's doing it right now, there's just it just solidifies my belief about this guy, and I still hate him for that reason because you're basically you grifted for money, and now what is this? Why are you changing up your tune, right? So
here's the thing. I actually think he legitimately believes in all this shit. I think he's kind of 100%, dude. I've talked to him a little bit, and I've seen a lot of clips of him. I have a mutual friend with him. I think he 100% believes this stuff. I think 100% he legitimately has swallowed this stuff hook, line, and sinker. I think he's a deeply impressionable man. He's also very young. People are more impressionable when they're young. I don't think he's that intelligent. I've said that many times, and I stick by that. I don't think he's that intelligent. I think he's very emotionally volatile. I think he has some inner issues that he's dealing with, and that makes him very impressionable and willing to swallow different ideas. So I think there's a massive difference between the old Sneeko, the new Sneeko. The old Sneeko is actually pretty good about most things. The new Sneeko has been super duper cringe. I mean, you literally the stuff he says. I mean, he literally says that you should not wear seatbelts because the government tells you to wear seatbelts, and he says that you're probably safer not wearing a seatbelt when driving. And his reason is why would you say that? Well, if you crash, sometimes, you might have flown out the car. When the car's on fire, you would have been okay. Sneeko, that's a 1 in a billion chance. So this dude literally is such a contrarian. He thinks that you should not wear seatbelts. Like, this is the level of insanity we're talking about here, right?
That's the crap. He's done so much to like basically poison his fan base, because a lot of them, I think they're genuinely like a bunch of 11-year-olds, right? Because this guy hangs out with Aiden Ross, and Aiden Ross had that infamous stream that got him kicked off of Twitch. He did it on Kick, but what he did was he streamed porn to his fans, right? And he was asking the chat, well, how old are you guys? And you could see the chat. They were just like 11, 13, 8. So like some of these guys were like really young. And he was like, oh, well, I should take this off then, right? So I think a lot of the people that follow guys like this are very, very impressionable. And on top of that, they're a bunch of minors, including the Fresh and Fit platform. They probably got a bunch of little kids following them and doing this stuff. And that's the thing that like bothers me, because a lot of these guys, they're influencing the minds of a lot of these young people, and it's just trash because they themselves don't believe it.
Let me address this. Sneeko got banned off YouTube, so now he's sending his channel back. Discuss that. I disagree with that. First of all, he knows he's not going to get his channel back. Once you're at that level and you get your channel back, there's no, unless like Elon Musk buys YouTube, he's not getting his channel back. Okay, not happening. 0 chance. And I think he's not that dumb. I think he's smart enough to actually know that he's done with YouTube. Right? There's no second chances. That's the first thing. The second thing is that even after he got banned off YouTube, he was still super cringe red pilly on Rumble. On Rumble was when that whole episode happened with him dancing around with the guns and saying, you like these clips, you like these clips. All of that, all the super duper cringy shit, or at least a lot of it, happened on Rumble. So it's not like he changed the second he like got on, Rumble and he got kicked off YouTube. No, the only change we're seeing is like half a year later now, after he went on this like big world tour. And now, just according to this one clip, he seems more reasonable, right? In this one clip. But again, maybe he's just having a temporary moment of sanity. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to kind of keep an eye on him.
Once people stop fucking with that rhetoric, because they've been brainwashed to buy into this red pill nonsense for so long, and he starts losing support, he probably switch back up. That's what I think. Yeah, he's that. And that again. Let's say that he is genuine with this, right? And maybe this should be an eye opener for a lot of dudes. So maybe you need to travel the world instead of living in your Miami bubble. Because let's just be real. A lot of the Fresh and Fit guys, they live in a Miami bubble. That's it. Yeah. That's what I call it. A lot of these women that they're talking about, they're talking about women in their vicinity, but they're
talking about like 5% of women. Okay, they're talking about. They're not going to talk about old Miami girls. They're talking about a small percentage of Miami girls. Yeah. I know. And the funny thing is, I know exactly what type of girls they're talking about because I've interacted with those girls a lot. So I know.
That's exactly. Right. You're in Miami too, so you know. Yeah, you know.
Exactly. I live down the street. They're literally like 1 minute.
Yeah, you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Let me get back into this.
Flexing for other guys. Who's qualifying? Like,
this is
is it you flexing for other guys? Right. All the women in here, they just said that
Zero
personality. Is it you flexing for other guys? Who's qualifying? Like,
what he said is really interesting. He's saying a lot of this red pill stuff is not for girls; it's actually flexing for other guys. Which
I've been saying that. I've been saying that, bro. A lot of these dudes, they're low key kind of sus. I'm just gonna be real, because all this shit,
for other dudes, bro.
It's like bodybuilders, right? Because like women, they like guys who are generally kind of lean, not too bulky and whatnot, right? But if you start to get too bulky, the less women are interested, and if anything, it's the opposite. Men are actually starting to get interested, not like sexually, but they're the ones who are like, oh yeah, man, dude, you're so strong and muscular, right? So it's weird. Like, it's the same concept when a lot of these guys talk about looks. Time out, bro. Women are the ones that care about looks. Why are we here in the manosphere talking about looks? Why are these guys talking about all these different things? That's not a thing that guys should be worried about, right? So you look at all the status, money, and stuff. Women are worried about that. Men usually aren't. So why? So it's just when I see a lot of this stuff, right? I think they're projecting a lot of things. Just like it's the opposite when you see how a lot of these masculine women they like to talk about are projecting. Oh, I want a man who is this and that, and they're basically describing, not what a man, but like the whole independent woman type of thing that's going on, right? The modern woman trope that's going on, right? So I think that a lot of that is women mirroring what they think that the best woman is a man, right? Because those are the attributes they put on themselves versus the other side to it, where no, it's the opposite. Of what makes a woman is someone who rest in their femininity. That's pretty much what it is. Not like someone who's a super go-getter and someone who's super rich or everything like that, because that's stuff that men chase, right? And it's the opposite here. The guys are looking at beauty. The guys are looking at all these other superficial things that actually don't really even matter, right? And especially when it comes down to a woman, because there are different boxes that you can tick for a girl, and it doesn't have to be all 100%. And I think that's what's gotten a lot of these dudes really twisted up inside, because they think that they have to hit the 6 figures, the looks max, the all the different stats in order to get a woman. And what you end up finding out is a lot of dudes who even have those stats, they still didn't get boxed. You see what I'm saying? They're still not getting to that level. So it's just one of those things where it's a lot of people need to slow down and understand, because we're worried about what women are worried about, and we shouldn't be. That's one thing. That's one of the sneaking suspicion I had. So he's got a point there. I agree with it. I like this.
So far, he's been pretty based. I mean, also just going back to like the whole showing off for men thing. Like, you think about the car thing, right? Like, there's like the Andrew Tate thing, just having like photos of cars, like you with a car, right? Girls are not going to be impressed by that. They're going to think it's very show offy. Like, most girls are going to think you're just like a douchebag, right? Who's actually going to like that? Men. Because men are going to think that's cool. So a lot of the stuff is not actually based around like impressing a woman.
Did you see that episode where the Fresh got his Instagram judged by a bunch of girls?
Yeah,
like dissing him because he all the pictures he had was like pictures with celebrities.
Yeah, they all said you look like a scammer, you look like a fraud. And then the funniest part was Fresh was like, yo, do Myron. And Myron's like thinking, like, no, don't do me. He's like, listen, Fresh, you're about to give up the grift. Like, just be quiet. He's like, yeah, do Myron. Fresh is like kind of dumb, so he's just like not thinking.
Like, no, if you got roasted, I'm definitely getting roasted. That's what Myron was thinking. Like, Fresh. Yo, Fresh tried to do Myron in because he was like, hey, listen, I can't be the only one holding this L.
It does feel like he's doing this because he gets tired of having his wall drained from his credit. It's possible, but I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think he's that smart, honestly, or that thought out. I think he's too impulsive. But you could be right.
Speaking about getting his wall drained, he's actually making bank over there on Rumble. So I'm
sure he is.
He's making a lot of money on Rumble.
You said Sneaker. You said you gave Sneaker respect when he came on stream and answered your call. I gave him respect when he came on the stream, but then I lost respect once again because of several things. Number one is that we're supposed to do like a real debate, and he totally like fucking flaked on that. I even had mutual friends like Destiny try to set it up, and he's just like avoiding debating me hardcore. Number two is with the whole fucking Charlie Gunn thing. Number three, at that time, I didn't know about the whole cuck thing. Number four, when I watched that clip when he was like bullying that girl on Fresh and Fit. So yeah, it was like a bunch of things that happened.
Yeah, he's like, I can see your pubes. That's so
crazy. I respect went up, but then it went right back down to zero.
Yeah, that was weird when he did that shit. Like, you're talking about another girl's pubes and like, yo, Sneaker, that's weird, dog. You sound like a toddler. What the hell? Come on, bro.
All right, let's keep going.
Car shit, gym shit, finance shit. A lot of it is just flexing for other guys. It really is.
And here's the other thing too, bro.
Less than free.
I don't mean to call any of these ladies out, but they said a bunch of bullshit. They don't even care about any of these things unless they're attracted to you first. There's plenty of
what makes you attractive though?
Well, hold on.
Wait, there's such a straw man argument because no one is saying that there's not a not like a what's the term called? Not a they'll say it anyway. Yeah.
But you're not going to give a fuck about his personality or being genuine or his integrity if he's not handsome enough, like he doesn't qualify.
But it wasn't like talking about what they were
trying to say.
Their idea of a high-value man. But so then what's more important?
But they're not going to give that guy a chance unless he meets certain prerequisites.
Oh, so the word I'm looking for is a threshold thing. So he's straw manning because no one's saying there's not a threshold. Yeah, you could be the coolest person ever. If you're like ugly or smelly as fuck, the girl's not going to give you a chance. But once you meet that threshold, personality does play a massive role. How funny you are, how charismatic you are, how confident you are, right? That plays a massive role once you meet the girl's looks threshold, right? But he's kind of straw manning the opposition, which kind of
I feel like he has to because these guys have to sell a narrative. Think about it. This is the same narrative that he's been selling to his fans for so long that it's been brainwashing the people who are watching it. Because every time I do a video, people will say, "Oh, I will say things that are very base, right?" Because I first of all, girls don't like jerk offs. They don't like people who are dicks. They like nice guys, right? Nice guys with edges, right? You got to have an edge to you. You can't be too like you can be like an asshole because no one wants to be around an asshole. But if you treat her nice, all right, you could prove that you could protect her. She's down for you. You also got gotta have a personality too. But a lot of these guys, you know, they think I have to be mean. I gotta be like a Myron Gaines. I gotta talk to a woman like, you know, crazy in order to get that respect. It's like that's not how that works. If anything, she loses respect for you over time the longer you do crap like that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're straw manning because they have to sell that narrative, and that's a big problem. That's why these platforms they either gotta eventually they're either gonna change the narrative or you know it's because a lot of the people who are watching them right now eventually they're gonna grow older. They're gonna get older.
That's also the reason why they don't want to debate like people like me, people who like understand dating dynamics. So you can't say I'm like blue pill, right? Because I understand like all their arguments inside and out. I understand how dating really works, right? So they like debating blue pillars, where you can just be like, oh, he's just a dumb blue pillar talking about the fairy tale, right? But someone like me and you, we're clearly not in that category. We understand the red pill pretty well, right? We just disagree with some parts of it. So that's why like they will just go out of their way to avoid those debates. Like Rollo is like the same exact category. Like he will.
And you notice every time guys like Fresh Myron and Fresh go out of their platform and debate someone else that's outside their platform that has like let's say some sense about relationships and stuff, they get clowned and they look ridiculous because that's what ends up happening. If they go debate someone like you, that's what it's gonna be like Donovan Sharp, right?
I mean, dude, Myron got clowned by like Brittany Renner, who's like a fucking gold digger. I mean, like a fucking BBL gold digger, like fucking Anale. And you can see like, you know how he's like so confident like during this when he's in the studio. You could see his confidence was like zero during that debate, right? Like he was just like, I don't know. What makes you say that, right? Like he was a totally different person, right? So
these guys are pussies, man.
It's easy to feel confident when you have a home field advantage, and whenever someone says something you don't like, you can just kick
them out. You can tell them to shut up, and then when you push back, it's my platform.
Nobody gives anybody a chance till they meet certain prerequisites, right? That's true of everybody. That's true of guys and girls.
I want to be unbanned.
You're not going to give a girl a chance if she weighs 700 pounds, right? This is everybody's going to have like a minimum threshold for.
Always assume attraction when you ask them.
I feel like you're assuming that.
I'm assuming what?
That somebody.
My internet might be glitching, but at least I don't go.
Oh, she about to get frank answer.
You could use the word settle. You know, if it fits.
So you'll accept integrity, passion, loyalty, and honesty. A homeless guy can give you that.
I mean, I
say again, he's straw manning because no one's saying that he have a looks threshold, right?
And who do you think these women who get married to these rich guys or they date these rich guys, who do you think they end up leaving them for anyways? The guy who has pretty much nothing compared to the guy they were dating with, right? Because obviously those things matter. A lot of these guys run around thinking, oh, you got to have money, you got to have looks. You are getting the wrong idea. And most of all, you're wasting your time, which you don't have a whole lot of.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good idea to try to improve your looks as much as possible. Like, I think that's all great. Like, looks max as much.
Yeah, but not for. Don't do it just for a woman though, because the confidence isn't going to come with that. If you're just improving yourself to get a validation from a woman, or if a woman doesn't validate you, it affects your confidence. If you want to look good, you want to make sure you're looking good so you can play well, right? Just like you're going on a football field or whatnot. You dress nice or you dress well for the occasion. You're gonna chances are you're gonna be better at the game.
Dude, sometimes I think it doesn't matter. Like with me personally, right? I got into bodybuilding purely for women, right? And then I started bodybuilding. I like it. And now even though I have a girlfriend, I work out like very regularly. I'm still so I think like even if you're getting into it for the wrong reasons, I think it's okay because like
I see a lot of good-looking girls with ugly dudes all fucking day. Sometimes I just turn my head like, wait, buddy, what are you doing? And you talk to him and you say, oh yeah, this guy's kind of funny, or oh hey, this guy actually he may not look good, but dude's kind of crazy, bro. He look like he'll whoop your ass. So there's stuff that's out there. I mean, you see the stuff out and about when you go and walk around. They're good looking girls with dudes who don't look that great, and it works. You don't have to have these trifecta in order to just land yourself a good woman. And then also you got to ask yourself, what are you landing the woman for? To have sex or for something more? And then that's a question that goes up in the air when you pin these guys down. Because a lot of them, they just don't want to admit that they just want to have sex.
No, he probably can't. Wait, what?
For the man or for the woman? It seems like the red pill ideology is that being successful is more important. It's not about attracting a woman. Like, what's more important for a man? What should a man's priority be? Having a family or being successful?
Being successful first every single time, because then you have the ability to choose. But
not anymore. Not if you get the vasectomy.
Can you pause that real quick?
You can't have the family.
Dude.
Some men, and this is all I gotta say about this, they value family and creating a family, and they see themselves as very successful. So I don't know where, like, I don't know, bro. Like this is crazy what they're talking about. But
well, there's different priorities, dude. Some people some people they don't care about being rich. They just want to have a family. They want to build something with their wife, and they're okay with being a working person, right? I've met plenty of people like that. They don't care about becoming rich. Some people are the opposite. Like me personally, I'm more interested in like kind of becoming some more successful, right? And then there's like everything in between, right? But there's not like a one size fits all. It just really depends on like what you want, right? What's your priority? But I know a lot of people who are like not that rich, who got married, who are poor, and they're really happy. They have a family. They have like family get-togethers. They're really close. Everything's going well, right? Like I know a lot of people like that, and I also know a lot of rich people who are unhappy in their relationships, right? So just becoming rich doesn't like.
And that's the thing. These guys don't provide that context. The context they're putting it as, well, no, you need the resources. You need success to them. They're equating that to resources and wealth. You understand that that's what these guys are doing. So success to them is resource and wealth. And what you explained makes a lot of sense because it's not always about resources and wealth. Sometimes it could be about just starting a family. Sometimes it could just be having a community around you. Or sometimes it could just be having people depend on you. I mean, there's nothing more. Listen, I would say this. For me as a man, there's nothing more important than having people depend on me, right? Because that keeps me on my toes. So I don't know. If I have people depend on me, that makes me feel pretty successful.
Yeah, I mean, look at someone like Elon Musk, who's someone I actually like and respect. He's on his 5th marriage, okay? If money was like super influential and like making your relationship work, why would he be on his like fucking 5th marriage? Okay, there's clearly more to a successful relationship than just becoming rich. Now, to acknowledge the other side, there's a correlation, right? So rich people tend to get divorced less than poor people, right? However, I'm not convinced that rich people have better relationships than poor people. I think rich people just stay in relationships they're not happy with for financial reasons more likely than poor people do. So just because rich people get divorced less doesn't mean that they have better relationships. So I think it's an important caveat that everyone ignores.
Dude, you can undo a vasectomy.
Okay, hold on. Vasectomies are not supposed to be undone. It is possible, but that's not meant to be an undone surgery. It's supposed to be a one and done. And the longer you wait after you have it, the lower the chance you have of reversing it. Use a fucking condom. Why the fuck would you get a fucking vasectomy?
Yeah, dude. Like
Myron doesn't believe in condoms.
What?
I said Myron and Fresh don't believe in condoms.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, I've heard the stories on that. Yeah, he has apparently in his drawer like 20 packs of like Plan B that he just like organizes around. Yeah.
Jesus, what a weirdo, bro.
Yeah, some chick exposed him on that about like half a year ago.
This is probably one of the most retarded things that I've ever heard, like that them even defending. Like, I think that it would be easy to the vasectomy is not a 100% chance to reverse. And again, the longer it goes on, the worse the chance. That's supposed to be a permanent surgery. I don't know why you would ever defend such an insane fucking position.
But I am saying that we should be focused on becoming good fathers too. Just like we make fun of girls for prioritizing their careers and wanting to be girl bosses and wanting to build an empire, they're not prioritizing motherhood immediately. And then we're saying, men, ignore family creation, get a vasectomy so you can focus on getting rich. And then you'll be 40, you'll have all these hoes and girls, and then start a family. Like, how are we building men to become good fathers if they've been only prioritizing success, if they haven't?
Where did this dude come from? I like this.
I told you, bro. I told you.
We can't be. We're preaching contradictory ideas. We're saying, okay, we want these women to be virgins, and on the other hand, there's different rules for men. Go make these girls hoes. You can't encourage dudes to go out sleeping around with as many women as they can, selling your DMs on demand courses, and then turn around and say, yo, you women have to be virtuous. Who do you think are going to be banging those virtuous women and then turn them out? It's the guys you're training right now. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this was a good Cinco moment. We'll see where it goes. All right, let me move on to the next thing. This one's pretty funny. It's about a good friend, Rollo. So he made this community post. It says the quickest path to becoming a high-value man. Number 1, do not get married. Which is funny is that he fails this one. Avoid family creation. He fails this one because he has a daughter. Vasectomy in your 20s. I don't think he did that, so he fails this one. Live consistently. He definitely doesn't do that one. Fails this one. Eliminate all sedations. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that's true. Learn game and networking. He doesn't have any game, so he fails this one. Play to your strengths, build wealth. Okay, let's just give him that one. Resist easing up on your focus. Let's give him that one. But he's like literally like 3 for 8 for like all these things that he mentions. He's married, has a family. He does not live consistency. He doesn't have game, and he probably doesn't have a vasectomy. Like it's really funny. Like how
who was that woman that was pushing? Is it Margaret Sanger that was pushing for abortions and you basically like not eugenics. What's that? What was her name? That woman was pressing hard for abortion and shit, like getting a lot of people to abort their babies.
I don't know.
I think it's Margaret Sanger, right?
Are we talking about decades ago?
Yeah, I'm talking about decades ago, right? Now look at that number 3. That number 3 actually kind of worries me a little bit, right? He said have a vasectomy in your 20s. This dude is advocating for young men to sterilize themselves before they even get started with having families. He's the male Margaret Sanger right now. He's the male Margaret Sanger right now. What do you mean have a vasectomy in your 20s as a young man? That's stupid.
Yeah, man, it's pretty nuts. At the end of the day, my position on this is neutral. It's like if you want to have a family, have a family. Just be careful about being married. If you don't want to have a family, then don't have a family. I mean, I would never tell someone don't have a family. Like if you want to have a family, like my cousins are all married, they all have families, they're all happy. Like nothing wrong with having a family. In fact, it's a good thing. We need more people that have families because we're facing population, collapse, right? So, but yeah, just say like don't have a family. But it's just
these are the same guys that complain about men aren't having enough, or population is being depleted, or we have to import immigrants and all that stuff like that. Meanwhile, you're over here advocating for men to basically sterilize themselves before they even get a chance to have a family. That is sick. That's fucking sick. I think Rollo's an agent, bro. Rollo has to be an agent, bro. There's no way you can legitimately believe that. And you yourself have a family. You yourself have children. You yourself have been married for 27 years. Like, Jesus Christ, bro. This is crazy.
Yeah, man. To me, I found it funny that he's like only 3 for 8 with these things. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Let's take a look at like one more thing, and then we'll open up the panel. Okay. I want to play this.
Think that healthy conflict, boundary setting, making requests, sitting through discomfort, making compromises, all normal parts of healthy relationships, that all of that is drama, right? So they're looking for something easy, peasy, lemon squeezy, no conflict, no requests on their time or their resources, no behavior modifications, no compromises, no meet in the middle, no conflict. That's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. These are guys that just don't want to do the work.
I sort of agree and sort of disagree with him.
So play that one more time. I'm trying to understand what he's trying to say.
Okay, let me explain it. So he's answering a question. Why do so many men say not into drama on their profiles? And he's basically trying to make the argument is that they're not interested in doing the hard work of being in a relationship and compromise and like communication and whatnot, right? Now, I do think there's elements of truth to what he's saying. I just don't think that's why men say
My guess.
The reason men say not into drama is because there's a lot of chicks who are drama queens, who will like just basically give them drama like before you're even dating them. So that's why they're saying that. It's not because they necessarily don't want to do the work, but there are some guys who don't want to do the work, right? But just because you have not to drama in your
I take that same position too. A lot of times it's kind of like we were talking about that. No, who was that crazy woman when I was on here last time that was going hard in the paint for that
race?
Yeah, it's like, yo, so just because you don't like, because sometimes it's just there's no point in arguing with women like that or going back and forth. Like, it just doesn't help anybody and nothing gets done. So it's not about not trying to put in the work or any of that bullshit that he's saying. Sometimes it's not worth the headache because you might end up saying, if you get pulled into that emotional realm of a woman and you get back and forth, it's a lose-lose situation. And plus, you might end up saying something that would completely destroy the relationship. Sometimes it's just best to not engage and then re-engage when you guys are both level-headed. So I don't think it's not about not willing to put in the work. I just think there's a little bit of a style to it where you don't have to engage with somebody who's already heated, right? And on top of that, I gotta get what you're saying too as well. On the other hand, it is kind of like some other guys who don't want to put in the work, but I feel like that's for more relationships that have they're like 10, 15 years down the line when people get so used to each other. Then
maybe not 10, 15, maybe like a year down the line, but yeah, like your relationship is work. Like you're not going to get 100% of what you want in any relationship. You just want to find a girl who have a lot of overlap, a lot in common with, and then you guys both make reasonable sacrifices so that you're at a point where you're both happy. But you're never going to get 100% of what you want in any relationship, right? It just doesn't happen.
Men need to find their purpose in life, their true purpose. If you don't know what it is, you need to cut off all women.
Why is it women though? I don't understand.
Because they are draining you of your solar energy, and without it, you won't be able to find your purpose. This is why men, before they make it in the world, they always have a period where they abstain from women to be able to harness masculine energy. They have to cut off the women, and they have to cut off all temptation, and they have to spiritually grow to find out their purpose. Once you find your purpose, then you are able to grow masculine energy on levels you will never understand. But while you're draining it into women that don't love you, you will never grow.
So I think this is really cringy, like fucking.
I was with her, but then she started talking all this spiritual nonsense. I'm like, hey, listen.
Cringy general self-help advice that's not has absolutely just sounds good, but doesn't have any like basis in reality. At the end of the day, you could be casually having sex with girls. You couldn't even have a girlfriend while you're working on your like what the why do you have to like you have 24 hours in a day? How much time does women take? Like going on one date a week, fucking one chick a week? Like how much does that take? Like you still have fucking the vast majority of your day to focus on your purpose, right? You're better off cutting off things like Instagram and video games and TV. Those are things you should cut off if you're women would be less on my list because all these guys they're fucking watching video games, they're jerking off to porn, they're fucking on Instagram, they're on social media. That's what's taking most of their time, not women.
It sounds like she read that somewhere, and then now she's trying to preach it as some kind of profound thing. Yeah, guys, listen. You actually, I think learning how to deal with women is actually a valuable skill, right? Because listen, I think people often forget that we're animals at the end of the day, and one of the most important thing is you want to go ahead and you want to mate. That's ingrained. That's the whole reason why we have puberty, guys, is because we want to mate. So understanding how to get more of that by basically training yourself, talking to women, dealing with women, hanging out, and learning those lessons. That's going to help you be a better man. Matter of fact, that's going to help you deal with women a lot better as you grow than when you do abstain from women, make all your money, and then by the time you meet one girl, you just fold. That's what you see with a lot of rich guys. They fold because they spent so much time trying to focus on getting the money. When they finally get the girl, it takes that one girl to fuck it all up because they don't have that awareness. They don't have that training to be able to handle certain types of women. Because sometimes you can see the games that women play from afar away if you're used to it, if you're experienced with it. So she's just saying you need to cut off all women. You're just creating more incels, bro. You're creating more rich incels. That's all she's doing. That's cap.
Yeah, basically. All right, let's do like one or two more. All right, let's see. Look at this one.
I mean, I've probably talked to like 5,000-6,000 guys.
Whoa!
Wait, what? 5,000 or 6,000?
Wow, is that souls?
So you just through different dating apps, or primarily Facebook, or
Tinder mostly.
Okay, so you talk to them to
Just
get
for-
attention.
Just attention
Just
when
for
I'm
fun.
bored. They just send me like money and stuff.
Oh,
how much money? In the past year, I've probably made 10,000, 15,000. I mean, I've probably
crazy, right?
I believe it. I believe it, bro. I believe it, dude. She's not lying, bro. I know dudes that would hit that undercover. I know dudes that would do that, bro. She's not lying. See, some of these dudes, they want to come on the internet and pretend, bro. Like a lot of y'all coming up here and pretending, but I know some of these dudes be the same ones going back and doing that dirty with some of these females. I know it. And a lot of times the reason why guys do that is because they probably think she's easier.
Yeah, or they just have low self-esteem. But dude, that's crazy to me, dude. You'd have to pay me like tens of thousands of dollars to fuck that chick, man. Like,
I also think she's probably catfishing too. Ain't no way. Like she probably there's a little bit of catfishing.
Dude, we did an experiment. We took photos of a really obese girl, like a girl who's like disgusting, like 400 pounds. She got like 500 matches in 24 hours. So I don't think she needs to catfish to pull that off. And guys were like begging to get up with her. So yeah, that's just how fucked up. 100%, man.
I thought maybe because I believe it. She probably catfish, or you know how big girls do that stuff with the photos where they don't show their bodies and shit. You know what I'm talking about when they take you know she's big, but she don't take like full body shots. Yeah. Damn.
No, I don't. I mean, she could be, but I don't think she needs to. Honestly,
I can't love you because I'm attracted to Josh. I just saw Josh, and there is some chemistry.
So what was the talk about?
It was him basically confessing his feelings.
What are you saying to me right now?
I don't want to be with you anymore. And
You want to be with Josh?
I will find that out.
Okay, Jackie. That is very hurtful.
I'm just telling you, Marshall, that I just can't be with you. I can't.
I would like the ring back because I don't think that you deserve it. Because you should never have accepted my proposal.
Well, I'm going to keep the ring because I accepted it because I wanted to marry you. Everything I told you in that pod was real.
And you know what? I don't even care.
Dude, you know how I was going to sell you my car? Well, when I accepted your money, I had full intentions of selling you my car. The thing is that some other guy came along and was willing to give me more money for that car. But I'm going to keep the money because in that moment, when you offered me the car, I was genuine about selling it to you.
That sounds horrible. Like, nah, I either need my money back or I need that car.
Get that fucking ring back, motherfucker.
Like, yeah, now she's just being a false advertiser, false salesman, whatever you call it, bro. And yeah, that's the thing. This is where experience come from. You can see women like this from far away if you had your experience, bro. Like, don't be listen. And he's right. Ask for that ring back. She's wrong for keeping that. That's horrible. Like, you're not married to do, but you keep the ring. Like that's crazy.
You know what it comes down to? It comes down to poor screening because that girl should have been screened out ages ago. Because if she's the kind of girl that's willing to keep the ring, she's a piece of shit. And there were signs along the way that this guy ignored. Like that girl should have been screened out, 100%. All right, let me. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed these. I feel like these were pretty cool clips. I'm gonna drop the link. We went from Ukraine, Coach Repto. We covered fucking simps. We covered women being bitches. We covered fat chicks making tens of thousands of dollars. We covered Rollo Tomassi being a hypocrite, although that's not a surprise. What else did we cover? And we covered Sneeko having a redemption arc.
Yeah, that's crazy. Buddy went. I'm surprised. I would never have thought Sneeko would have. And I don't believe that change is real. I don't think it's real. I don't know. I don't know what to think of Sneeko anymore. I really don't, man. He's just, I don't know. I just think he's weird.
I'm not sure, bro. Honestly, I don't know. I can't prove this. It's just like my gut feeling is that he legitimately believes the stuff he says.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. Yeah, I could be wrong. He might be smarter than I give him credit for. He might be actually like really manipulative and like, just going where the money is. That could totally be the case. I can't prove that's not the case. But my gut
what are your honest thoughts on that Steven Crowder thing, by the way, too? I know that's kind of like dying down, but what do you I was like that last conversation I was wild.
Well, there's just to kind of before I answer that question, there's another very interesting article that came out a few days after that, where basically a bunch of people who used to work with Steven Crowder said that he has a habit of fucking taking his dick out and like showing it to them and putting it on their face. Like 6 or 7 independent sources came out who worked with Steven, and they were like, yeah, one day we were driving and I passed out. I woke up, his dick was like on my shoulder or something like that. Shit like that. So like the one thing everyone agreed on was that this guy's a fucking asshole. He's a piece of shit. So look, there's no physical abuse. We know that. Do I think there's emotional abuse? Well, based on that one video, it's inconclusive. We can't conclude there's emotional abuse
Alex.
On that video. However, we can conclude there's manipulation, that he's being a dipshit, that he's a gaslighter. I don't know if I would say that's emotional manipulation unless the claim then the video is true, where he says, I'm going to fuck you up. If he says that, then that's emotional abuse. But we don't have a video of that, so we can't prove that.
No, I think there was some definitely some covert manipulation going on in that video alone. Matter of fact, that video alone proved to me that he's a stone cold manipulator. Hands down. He was gaslighting her the whole time and then flipping it on her and then making it about him, right? When she was saying, I need to take the car. How do you think that's gonna make me feel? How am I gonna get around? What if I want to go see my friends? What if I gotta do that? It's like, what? Right? And then when she's like, all right, well, I love you, but then I gotta go. I can't do this right now. Oh, well, you're saying you love me and I don't love you because you don't want to walk the dog or do all this other stuff like that. How do you think that affects me? So all that stuff, even the verbiage, that's textbook manipulation right there. It just shows you what.
But do you think someone? But Duke, do you think someone could be manipulative without being an emotional abuser?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you. There was manipulation, right?
But the way. Okay, so you're absolutely right? Because this manipulation that goes on every single day in our lives, right? But here's the thing we're dealing with here. You got your 8-month pregnant wife with twins, and look at the way he was speaking at her. Look at even the dynamic alone these two had. You could tell this was an ongoing thing. What we saw in that clip was probably just a micro shot of what the actual, however long the relationship has been going on, right? That's just a microcosm of what was actually going on behind the scenes. Otherwise, if this guy was such as great as the guy it is, this wouldn't be happening. So yeah, I agree with you. There wasn't a lot of physical abuse or anything like that, but you can't deny, like, just based off that video, there was a lot of mental and verbal shit that was going on.
I mean, here's a hot take. I think Steven Crowder is dealing with some sexual urges that are not very tradcon. Whether he's into cross-dressing or homosexuality, I don't know.
Didn't he wear a dress once? I thought I saw him in a dress once.
Bro, it's not once. He does it fairly often. He's done videos where he's worn dresses, which is really bizarre because he's like anti-trans. And then like the whole him whipping his dick out and putting in other dudes. And then like his defense was like, bro, it was a joke. But like, I don't know how you and your friends joke around, but me and my friends, we don't whip our dicks out and put them on each other.
Bro,
okay?
the moment you do that, you get knocked out, bro. It's a wrap.
I don't want black people thinking this is what white people do for fun, all right? Like, as a representative for white people, we don't fucking do that shit. We don't fucking.
Listen, I was gonna say, I'm glad you spoke up for your white boys because I know a lot of white boys that be doing.
That's like not normal behavior. Like maybe in middle school, but not as an adult.
I remember in high school, dog. Like we had these swim guys, a bunch of white dudes on the swim team, bro, and they were always sus because like sometimes when they practice, they would use like the main locker room. A lot of other people would use for like regular gym and shit like that. So when you walk in and they're just getting done with practice, you see them, they're walking around the locker room naked and hitting each other and running around. I'm like, yo, what? And me and homies, we'd be like, yo, these niggas are weird, bro. These swim boys are just it was just a bunch of white folks. I'm like, listen, I don't know how you can be playing around with each other's dicks and call yourself straight. Ain't nothing straight about that.
I mean, there's clearly something going on there that's sus. The cross-dressing, the whipping the dick out. I mean, like, that's not normal straight guy behavior, okay? Like,
no.
Like, look, if it was one time that he did some cross-dressing thing for a skit, I could understand that. It's okay. Maybe he did one skit, but he's done it like a dozen times. Like,
yeah,
it's a pattern.
That's weird. That's probably a cry for help, bro. He's probably crying for help. There's something there, and that's the thing. So I don't know what you would call yourself if you're like super conservative or where you lean, but I've noticed this about like a lot of these ultra conservative people, right? There's always something with these people, dog. There's always something, and just like that's why I'm so wary when people like they speak out against gay people and they're like super they're super aggressive about it. They speak out against all these other alternative lifestyle and they're super aggressive about it. Because here's the thing, I don't agree with some of those stuff, but you're not gonna see me going hard in the paint against that because at the end of the day, I don't care, right? And I'm sure that's for the most people that are watching this right now that genuinely don't really care about that shit. You're not gonna go on this hate tirade on gays and trans and people like that. But when you start to notice these guys do it a lot, look at their lifestyle. All of a sudden, it's like, it's starting to go from you actually calling these people out to you actually like projecting. It seems like there's something about you that you're, because listen, when you hate somebody, like, and that's one thing I realized as I got older, bro, and I'm getting older, right? When you hate someone, there's usually something in yourself you see in that person, right? Something in yourself that you don't like that you see in that person. So I don't know. That's the one thing I got. I'm like, that's why I don't get very hateful and shit like that, because why? Like,
well, at the end of the day, like as a straight guy, I just don't care about gay people, like what they do one way or another. If you want to fuck a dude, Like, it doesn't affect
and that's
me.
normal.
That's
based.
Straight guy reaction is like, who gives a fuck, right? Like,
bro, that's base. That should be the convo. But I just find it weird that a lot of people go hard in the paint against that. It's like, why do you care so much? Should we know about something? Is there something you're not telling us? Is there something about yourself you don't like? Like, what's going on, bro? Come on, talk to
dude.
us.
But the guy in my high school, like our friend group, who was like super anti-gay, right? Constantly like go on these anti-gay tirades. It would always be like, dude, like, who cares? Why are you so obsessed with this? You know what happened? College came out of the closet. Turns out he's super gay.
Yeah.
That's the pattern I see. Like,
you gotta be skeptical of those people, bro. You got to.
What's up, guys? What do you guys want to talk about?
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
good, peoples. Welcome to the stream. Make sure you hit the like button on your way in.
Good. I'd like to go first, if that's okay. Go ahead.
Sure. So, so you guys were just basically talking about something that I kind of actually wanted to ask you about. I listen to guys like Sneeko criticizing people who don't want to get married and don't want to have kids and all of that stuff. I don't know if you've heard that. I would imagine that you probably have. And it's like, why do you care so much that there are some people who don't want to get married and don't want to have kids? How does that affect you in any way, like shape or form? That's a personal decision that people make. It's like, why? Well, why do you care? This is, if some people don't want to get married and have kids, that's up to them. Why are you so angry about that?
I think
well, it goes back to the last conversation we're having about people who,
right.
who get so hateful against, like, you know, people who live an alternative sexual lifestyle, right? Because a lot of times it's probably because either those guys are stuck in horrible relationships, and that's why they preach out against, you know, don't getting married. Rollo Tomassi, I'm married for 27 years. Preachers don't get married. You're right. Or otherwise, it's, on the other hand, it's guys who can't find a girl or can't get a girl to want to marry them or get a girl to want to say yes, and then they project that feelings on a bunch of other dudes. Go ahead, Alex.
Right. Yeah. No. That could very.
Basically.
Yeah. No. That could very well be. That could very well be the case. But it's just. I mean, I hear stuff like this, and it's like, why don't you just let people live their lives the way that they want? You know, it's like, if you won't want to get married and have kids, fine. Go ahead. I'm not trying to stop you. Go ahead. Do whatever you want. But it's like, leave people alone and just let them make their life decisions. And it's very. I just find it to be very, very, very strange as all. The other thing that I wanted to ask you guys too, and this is kind of not really.
Wait, sorry, AK. Before you get to the next thing, can I just address a comment? And then it's all you.
Okay.
Failed arguments, not hypocrisy. He's talking about Rollo. Lottery winner tells you playing lottery tickets is a negative expected value investment. Statement is accurate. It's not hypocrisy. Okay, this is what we call a complete false equivalency. There's about a 1 in a fucking million chance you're going to win the lottery. There's about a 50% chance that your marriage is going to last. All right, they're not the same. They're not even close. 50% versus 0.00001%. Okay, so what Rollo should be doing is like, hey, I have a good marriage, allegedly. Well, why don't I teach guys, give them tips on how to have a good marriage as well? Also, it wasn't just a marriage thing, right? It wasn't just that. There's other things that was hypocritical. Like one of the ones was getting in shape, putting on muscles. That dude weighs like 100 pounds. He hasn't been in the gym in 3 decades. So there's like, it wasn't just the getting married thing. There was multiple elements of hypocrisy. I mean, Rollo is literally the epitome of a hypocrite. He always says you should debate people who think differently than you. Runs away from every debate. I mean, you can't make this shit up. He says don't make false allegations. And it's Sims for Donovan who makes a false allegation about Preach's wife, who wasn't even his wife. I mean, like, you can't make this shit up. I mean, he's like on every level, he's a hypocrite.
Why does it matter about him not being in the gym though? Like, because that is good advice. Like,
yeah, but he's not taking it. That's like having a fat personal trainer train you, and then how are they going to help you through tough times when you want to have that cheat meal when you're not supposed to have that cheat meal? Are they going to tell you, give you the encouragement to not do it, or can you look at their lifestyle and how they lead their lives and understand that these people probably don't have that discipline? You don't want if someone like Rollo Tomassi doesn't even have the discipline to go out and actually teach the good messaging that he's actually living right now. What makes you think he actually has the stones to help you out when you're going through a tough? Because listen,
good advice is good advice, right? Isn't it? Good advice is good advice.
Yeah, it's good advice. No one's saying. I just say one thing. Pearl gives good advice, right? She regurgitates a lot of the shit, but you could tell that her advice isn't. There's no gravitas to it because there's no experience there, right? So there's good advice, right? But if it matters who's giving it, because person who has experience giving you that same good advice, they can go a level deeper to bring you down to a level of understanding where you can understand that message in a completely different form versus someone just saying something that sounds like a talking point. That's the difference.
I mean, I understand that if you're like a personal, like a mentor, like if you're a direct mentor to somebody, then you probably should be living those things. But if you just give advice,
he's a mentor to a lot of people.
He says he saves lives.
Also, just to clarify, I don't think it's actually bad advice. Like, I just think that he's a hypocrite, right? So you can be a hypocrite and still give good advice, right? Hypocrisy means simply saying one thing and doing the other. The thing you're saying could be accurate. Going to the gym is good advice, right? I mean, it doesn't, it's not rocket science type of advice. I mean, pretty much everyone already knows that. But it is good advice, right? He's just not doing it, right? So
why do you care though? Why do you care if he's not doing it?
Because that makes him a hypocrite.
Yeah. No. All right. Yeah, but that's whatever. So what? He's giving as long as the vice.
Talking about Junior. What do you mean that's whatever? What do you mean that's whatever? That's not whatever, bro. Because that means someone can just come out here and say whatever they want to say and not really mean it. And then when you push harder, you're not going to get anything more than the surface level crap. So it's not whatever. It actually means a lot because there could be someone who's actually going through something. And yeah, they can hear that. It's good advice. But how are they going to apply it? If Bro is telling you to go to the gym, but you look at his life and he hasn't applied that same advice to himself, how is that going to work for you? You can go to the gym, but when you need to motivate, because you think going to the gym is easy? You think going to the gym at a certain time every day, lifting weights, burning up your muscles, and feeling pain for however hours in a day you spend in the gym, you think that's easy?
Yeah.
No, it's not. You think it's you just said it. Did you say going to the gym is easy? Come on. Did you just say going to the gym and working out is easy?
No. I said it's a mindset thing. No, it's a mindset.
Okay. So clearly Rollo, who hasn't been in the gym, doesn't have the mindset for it, right?
But you don't have to live your life based on what Rollo's doing, though. But
that's the basis of this whole conversation. Because
so will you acknowledge then? Okay,
go ahead.
Junior, if I acknowledge that some of the advice he gives is good, will you acknowledge that he's a hypocrite?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I just don't care about him. Like it doesn't matter.
Well, here's let me explain to you why it matters.
That sounds great,
right? And this comment kind of hints at it. Rollo says don't marry a post-war woman at 35, but his wife's 35. He was 30 when he married her, right? So when someone's constantly being a hypocrite, right, that means that they don't genuinely believe in the stuff they say. And just because he gets some of it right, there's also things he gets wrong, right? And because he's a hypocrite, his credibility goes out the window. So when you see someone who's very consistent with what they preach, right, it gives them a lot more credibility because, like, okay, well, Alex talks about like fucking using Tinder and he's on Tinder. Alex talks about going to the gym. He's on the gym. Alex like fucking talks about like, I don't know, like being more confident. And he's like constantly working on his confidence, right? So that gives him a lot more credibility versus if you see that I'm like saying, yeah, guys, get on Tinder, but I've never been on Tinder, right? Wouldn't that, even if it's a good idea to be on Tinder, wouldn't that automatically discredit everything I say, right? And when you have a like one
they'll be quick to call you out too.
One instance of hypocrisy, okay, you can excuse that. But when you have countless instances of hypocrisy, that just means that person loses all credibility, right? And you can't really take anything they say at face value at that point.
Well, like it's a hypocrite, but like if the advice works, it works. That's my real point. Like if the advice works, it works. Like sure, you can call them out.
Okay. How are we gonna determine if the advice works, right? Like how are you gonna?
You have like any advice, you have to try to apply. If it works and it's working for you, then.
But the guy who's giving you advice,
but the thing is like
not everything's gonna work for everybody. So if
then why give that advice?
The thing is
I don't give advice that don't work for me.
It's easy as just like downloading Tinder or something. Like he says, don't get married, okay? How are you going to try that? The only way you're going to try that is by not getting married and not having kids, okay? And then you get to a point where you're an old man and you're like, fuck, I wish I had a family, okay? It's not something that you just click on a ball and then you try, right? A lot of this stuff is like, very like kind of profound, deep thing that takes decades, right? So if it is indeed, I'm not making the argument, by the way, it's a good idea to get married. I'm generally anti-marriage myself as well. But if it does turn out that, getting married and having kids in certain situations is a good idea, right? Well, that person will miss out on that because they're taking what Rollo says at face value, right? So that's why people generally don't trust hypocrites.
Even his buddy Donovan Sharp is getting married to a post-war broad. You get how good your advice is gonna do for you. Come on, bro. And dude preaches the exact same thing. What are you guys talking about? They're not even based enough to be disciplined in their own advice they're giving other people.
Calm down.
Oh, did you know Myron and all of them YouTube dudes are gonna be at the wedding, Alex?
No, they're not.
They got Myron in there, Fresh gonna be the flower girl.
I thought he was already married.
Well, no, I think it's one of those things where they were just living for so long, or they were together for so long that people just assumed they were married. But I think like this one's for real. Like he's actually having a ceremony and everything, dude. It's wild. Yeah. Which is funny because like this dude built the whole platform saying don't marry single mothers. I remember covering videos of him and Minister Jap where they would have literally 3-hour live streams about how you shouldn't deal with the single mom. Fast forward, here's what he's doing: marrying a post-war single mother. Matter of fact, even while he was doing those podcasts, Donovan Sharp, he was still with the Devin. Right, he was with Devin. She was a single mother. It was exposed she was a single mother.
An older post-wall single mother. Post-wall.
So like it just shows you that these advice that these guys are doing, like you said earlier, it ruins their credibility. Because how
They
you gonna
don't
say
believe in it.
every single
They're
mom
not
is giving
walking
the
the
same
talk.
advice and then turns around and does the exact opposite?
Like how would you
That's
feel, for
dumb.
example? How would you feel, for example, like one of the things to talk about? It's like really important to fuck the shit out of the girl, like give her like a really good sexual experience. How would you feel if a bunch of girls came out and said, "Hey, Alex is like a 2-pump chump. I've never orgasmed with him. He just fucking barely fucks me. I've never come with him." Wouldn't that automatically just discredit you and discredit me in your eyes?
Well, those are obviously false allegations.
Well, obviously, because I'm fucking the shit out of these girls. We all know that, Brad. We all know that. Okay, I have some videos to prove it. Okay, I can provide evidence right now.
Well,
Listen, my thing is, if you're not disciplined enough to take your own advice, why should I listen to you? And that's the ultimate question, right? You're saying advice. I see where you're coming from, Junior. You're talking about, well, advice is advice. If it's good advice, it's good advice. But it does matter who's giving it, because if you're not willing to apply it, if you're not showing me that you can do the work and it's working for you, you could just be saying anything. I'd much rather go listen to the guy who has that credibility and says, oh, okay, do this, and this is why it worked for me. All right, cool. I'm gonna do that because I'm looking at the results here and it worked for him. But if we're looking at a guy who lives his life completely different, but it's coming online telling you to do the exact opposite, I'm not gonna listen to that, because I'm looking at your life and saying, well, you've been married for 27 years. And you tell me not to get married, so why have you been in a relationship for 27 years? That doesn't make any sense.
Wait,
to me.
let me pose this question. I want to pose this question to the panel. How would you feel if there was someone who's constantly talking about how bad false allegations are, how false allegations need to be challenged more, how it's something that's devastating for society, and then you find out that, number one, they actually make false allegations themselves, and two, they defend people who make false allegations? How would you feel about that person? Start off with you, Duke.
I'd say he's a fucking bozo and a hypocrite.
Okay,
That's it.
Let's go to Brad. How would you feel about that person?
Yeah, it's pretty hypocritical.
But would you think less of them?
Yeah, I would.
Brad.
Yeah, it all depends. It all depends on you'd have to give like specific examples of what, it all depends. But yeah, I suppose so. At least a little bit.
Okay. For me it would be a lot, but I'll give you the specific example after we go through everyone. Let's go to Junior.
Yeah, but that's more of a moral thing.
Fucking name.
Wait, you wouldn't think less of that person?
Yeah, I said yes. I just said yes.
But you said yes, and you added the moral thing in there. So
Yeah.
you're trying to be a control. So why did you say the moral thing though? Explain yourself.
Because if it was like the opposite, like if it was like a person, let me see, if it was a person that said, you shouldn't rape people, but he's raping people, and like, yeah, we should not follow that person. But at the same time, it is good advice not to rape people. So like taking advice. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what if it turns out that person got busted and charged for raping people?
Say it one more time. I didn't hear you.
What if that person got busted and got charged with raping people, but he's coming out here saying don't do that?
Yeah, we still didn't do that, but like we shouldn't support him. We shouldn't support him or like doing it.
So then what does morality have to do with any of this?
Like the question,
morality. Well, to be fair to Junior, morality is a part of it, but there's also all the elements. There's credibility. There's integrity.
Yeah, but what he's trying to do, obviously, because we know morality is a part of it, but he's trying to make it to be a separate thing. That's what I'm trying to get at. What does that
completely? How does it not, Junior? Does it completely destroy that person's credibility for you if you find out that's the case? Like, does that not just completely at that point you're like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to listen to this dude?
Well, we shouldn't follow him, support him, but like I'm just saying the vice itself. We can separate the vice from the person, right? Can we not?
We can, sure, but don't you think? You think? No, I think you can.
I don't listen. If the person is flawed, deeply flawed, giving that same advice that is also deeply flawed, yes, because
but the same advice. If the vice is flawed, then yes, but like if the vice is good, then is good.
It's flawed because the person who's giving it isn't even taking their own advice. That's the most expensive advice.
But that also doesn't mean that they came up with their own advice, right? They could be taking advice from someone else, right?
Wait, we're not even talking about like advice. We're talking about statements, right? We're not talking about advice. We're just talking. I'm constantly complaining. Well, let's take me. I'm constantly complaining about false allegations. I'm saying it's such a big issue. We need to challenge that more. And then you find out two things. One is that I make false allegations about other men, and two, I support people who make false allegations. Like,
yeah, but Alex, let me give you an example real quick. The reason I gave the answer I gave to that is because there are different levels to it. Like if I find out that you said that Duke hit the gym 3 times this week, but he actually hit the gym 5 times this week. You could technically call that like a false
But that's
accusation.
not what.
It's
That's
not
such a
like
bad thing.
No. Actually, can we use a real? Hey, Alex, can we use a real example like Rollo Tomassi?
Yeah, okay. Here, well, let me
People
explain.
false
Let me explain the
allegations
story.
against,
So we're talking about if for the 1% of people who haven't figured out about Rollo. So basically, what happened was he constantly talks about false allegations, how we need to challenge them, more blah blah. These chicks sometimes are taking these guys for all they're worth. If there's a small element of truth to what he's saying, false allegations, can suck if that happens to you. They're not really nearly as predominant as he says they are, but they suck, right? So no one disagrees with that. But then he made a false allegation about me and Abin Preach, saying that we are on Anthony Johnson's payroll, that he's paying us, right? So that completely throws our integrity out the window. If the only reason I'm making the content I do is because someone gives me money, then my integrity is toast. And he made the same claim about Abin Preach, right? Which is funny. So that's the first thing. The second thing is he defended Donovan in a specific situation where Donovan basically attacked Preach's wife, except it turned out that wasn't his wife. It was just a female comedian that he's friends with that he took one photo with. But basically Donovan literally doxed this girl and threw her shit out there and attacked her for being Preach's wife, except for the fact that she's not Preach's wife. And Rollo, well, that's a false allegation. And Rollo, instead of being like, hey, listen, that was messed up. I can't really defend that. He basically just defended Donovan. He's like, it happens. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. The false allegations. He's making them, and he's also supporting people who make them, right? Which means that when he says that false allegations are messed up, right, he's being a massive hypocrite.
Well, I agree with you on that point. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was my whole point. I just wanted to see what your position.
We're all on the same team here. Welcome to.
Let's go to Alex 1980-81. So
I think you're absolutely right. There, Alex. Yeah, I mean, Rollo Tomassi. I mean, yes, I would say that yes, he is a hypocrite if that's what he's doing.
Well, it's one of the many examples. Let's go to BK.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I also think that hypocrisy is kind of common in everybody. Some people do it subconsciously, and others people do it, intentionally for malicious intent. I feel like we as human beings are just hypocrites in general, right?
Well, can you name one example of me being a hypocrite?
I can't off the top of my head, but if you think down into the nitty gritty, I did say that, but now you say you change your mind, that could be.
But hang on, changing your mind is not being a hypocrite, right? So I have changed my mind on multiple issues, right? You can change your mind based on new information. That's not being a hypocrite. Hypocrite is saying one thing and doing another thing, right? That's what being a hypocrite.
Here's the one thing one thing I would have to agree with BK is a lot of people are hypocritical, right? And the thing is, on the minor things, right? So let's say if someone tells a white lie here, and then we turn around and say, hey, line is wrong and stuff like that. Everyone is told a white lie, so that it makes someone a hypocrite. There's those minor little things like that makes us all hypocrites. But we're talking about when you come into the content creation space, where you're someone like Donovan Sharp, when you're someone like Rollo Tomassi, who are preaching against single mothers, who are preaching against not marrying people with who are post-war. When you're preaching, when you already have pretty much a built-in framework like the Woman Needs courses or the DMs on the Mans to be able to structure the way men are supposed to live their lives, but then it turns out that your life is drastically different from the way you're promoting it and you're profiting off of it. That's bad news.
That kind of is true.
Let me address this comment.
Because I would admit I'm a hypocrite. Just about everybody else on this panel and everybody in the world, even people in the chat, have been hypocritical at one point in their lives, right? It's a normal thing. It's completely human.
Right.
When you come online and sell this lie, pretty much grift, that's a problem, because that level of hypocrisy is criticized, right? Because that's a very insane thing, because we can clearly look at your life and say, yo, you're profiting off of telling men to live their life a certain way, but then it turns around that you are the exact same clown. That makes no sense.
Right.
You're a hypocrite.
So you want to practice what you preach, especially when it comes to a business model. I would agree with that 100%. Yeah, that's.
Well, I do agree with Duke. At some point in everyone's life, they've engaged in some type of hypocrisy. The question is to which degree and how often. Let me address this question, Alex. You're a hypocrite when you support JL. Okay, so what happened with John Anthony is that I believe in him, right? And then I changed my mind based on things that happened, right? So I would be a hypocrite if during the time that I was supporting him, right, I was privately talking shit about him, right? So if text came out that during the time I was supporting him, I was like, he's the worst. That would make me a hypocrite, right? Because I'm saying one thing, doing another. But at the time, when I was supporting him, I was also acting like I was supporting him, right? So therefore, there was no hypocrisy. It's just simply something I changed my mind on, right? And it's okay to change your mind on things, but that's very different than being a hypocrite.
What would make Alex a hypocrite would be if he's selling courses on how to with Tinder texting and whatnot, and then let's say it got exposed that Alex's texting game was actually flawed, and even some of it. Let's just say this, like his techniques, or he never applied or used any of his techniques, but he's selling you guys products on how to be better at women. I'd be the first one calling Alex a hypocrite. I'm like, bro, you're hypocritical, right? But he's showing you DMs of stuff that he personally uses and personal results. So it's kind of hard to do that. But let's say if he was just doing random examples that had nothing to do with him and saying, guys, use this style because it works, right? And it turns out he wasn't doing the same thing, but he was profiting and building his business off of that. He's a hypocrite, clearly, right? But
let me just quickly address this, and then we'll move on to we'll move off the.
I have a question about that too. Like
you endorsed him when he's clearly a piece of shit. Was my point? Okay, you thought he was a piece of shit. I didn't think he was a piece of shit. Now you can make the argument that my judgment was poor. You can make a very good argument for why I was wrong in my judgment. Right? That's a fair point. But that doesn't mean I'm a hypocrite. It just
he's a hypocrite.
It just means that I maybe shouldn't have been I wasn't as diligent as I should have been, right? And I'll acknowledge that. I've acknowledged that multiple times publicly that, hey, like I was wrong in that situation. It's okay to be wrong, but being wrong doesn't make you a hypocrite. I think
what about the point that where he talks about like other people's manospheres girlfriends, and then you don't like when other people talk about your girlfriend, like you judge your girlfriend's her looks or whatnot?
But yeah, Alex hasn't engaged in making fun of other people's girlfriends like John Anthony Lawson has done. If somebody showed me a video of Alex doing that and say, "Oh, look at this chick, she's ugly," and it's about another content creator's girlfriend, then it'd be like, okay, that's a little hypocritical, Alex, right? But I haven't seen a video of him doing that, right? So
he never called out his friend for doing that, like,
and that's not him a hypocrite though. That's just making him a person who didn't call out his friend.
I feel like we're getting the definition of hypocrite all sorts of messed up right now.
What you're saying is not true that I never called him out. I just never did it publicly.
Why wouldn't you
privately about it? But at the time, I'm friends with him. I'm never going to call out my friends publicly. I'm going to always have discussions with them behind closed doors.
I think on Fresh and Fritz stream, when Fresh was doing stuff that was like sipping or whatnot, you wanted Myron to call him out for that, and that's his friend. Or like,
no, I never said that. That I wanted Myron to call him out? No, I don't expect Myron to call him out. They're business partners.
Yeah, listen. A lot of things, especially with YouTube, a lot of y'all want, especially as being audience members, y'all are like, listen. A lot of stuff happens behind the scenes that you guys don't. You guys want time out, Junior. When you see stuff that happens publicly, it usually because someone made it public first and decided to do that, right? Like for instance, I've had my fair share of that too, where someone decides to make something public and it's like, all right, cool. Now if you want to go public, we'll go public, right? That's just what it is. But typically, this is what you're supposed to do. If someone's actually like legitimately your friend, right, and then they're doing wrong, you want to call them out for doing wrong. I say, hey, I don't appreciate you doing that. The last thing you want to do is go out on social media and expose them like that, unless what they did was so freaking egregious, it just couldn't. It's something that you don't want to hide, right? You can't hide or whatever. But if someone, listen, we've all had friends. Everyone has had best friends or whatever it is, right? You're not automatically gonna go call the police because that person, one of your best friends, decided to go lie on a girl or something like that and say, hey, 911, yeah, my buddy, he lied to my girl, to his girlfriend. That's horrible. I can't believe he did that. You're not gonna do that, right? You're gonna say, buddy, like, how about you ease up on the line?
All right, one last question on this.
Why would you instantly go to social media right off the bat if he's your friend, right? I understand if he's a colleague, then yeah, if he's a colleague, expose him. But if Alex is considered John Anthony Lawsuit as a friend prior to this, yeah, it makes sense to call your friend out privately. Now, if it becomes a repeat behavior and it's something like, yeah, I can't fuck with that no more, then yeah, absolutely, you separate. And if people start asking that question, well, why did you guys separate? Then you can give your audience something public to say. That would be the same thing to do. The unhinged thing to do is the moment they do something wrong, is to not privately correct them and then go off and then publicly expose them. That's an incorrect thing to do, because how would they learn otherwise? And sometimes you run the risk of those people doubling down on their bullshit behaviors instead of learning lessons.
Yeah, when I'm friends with someone, I always talk to them privately if there's an issue. There's a whole bunch of people that have been on my channel that I've had issues with. no idea about because I talk to them privately instead of publicly. I don't like public is like typically when it comes to like a former friend or associate, it's like a last resort. And if it's someone I don't know, then I'm way more like, then I don't give a shit. I'll talk about public. But if it's someone a friend, that's like a last resort when everything else fails.
Yeah.
Alex was endorsing Johnny Anthony as a great dating coach and give him support. JL was doxing. Okay, so you're talking about two separate things. You're talking about his skills as a dating coach. I don't know, just someone who watched the channel. You're talking about his skill as a player versus his character integrity, right? So I still, to this day, will say that I think John has really, really solid game. I've gone out with him. I've seen him pull chicks. I've heard the sounds of him banging chicks. I've seen him in action. He legitimate. I don't think his game is perfect, but he does have really solid game. I will. Again, that's just the truth. That doesn't mean that he's a good person. You can have really good game, and I'm not even actually making a claim best character because I'm legally bound. But I'm just saying, in a hypothetical situation, you can be a really good person. I mean, you have a really good game, but be a shitty person, right? So again, they're not the same thing. Anyway, we can get off the John thing.
And the hypocrisy topic, because I feel like we all got the word some type of different definition for each of us.
Yeah, I just want to say something about this too. It's like when I watch all the Manosphere content creators, I know that they all have their pros and cons. They probably all have their hypocrisy in some way, but I'm just watching them to like see what benefits me and what doesn't. But I'm trying to like see them for their best. I'm not trying to like nitpick. Like I'm not trying to see them for their worst, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but the thing
the opposite of that.
You have to be realistic.
What you just said it actually opens you up to not be as critical with some of the content creators. You shouldn't be. First of all, you should be objective when you look at a lot of these content creators when they talk, right? I expect you when you listen to guys like Alex and you listen to when he's giving you advice, you'd be objective. And by being objective is listening, comparing it to things that you already seen in the real world and actually going out there and implementing some of those things to see if they work for you. That's being objective, right? So you're not listening to just see the good parts of it because then anyone can say any flowery good advice thing and you can say, hey, I'm looking for the good in that guy and what he said seemed pretty based. I'm going to go with that. No. You have to be objective. And that's the problem with a lot of people following these Manosphere goons all over the place. They're looking for something that, that it makes them sound good or make them look good in a good light. But realistically, they're not being objective. And it runs the risk of echo chambers forming, right? You don't want an echo chamber.
There's so many echo chambers.
And that's what we see in every single platform are echo chambers because you have people who are looking for the best. And all they have to do is repeat the same talking points that you've heard somewhere else. But because you were looking for the best in that guy and you vaguely heard of that talking point before and it made sense to you, all of a sudden he's a good guy, come to find out he's a scammer. That's something completely different. You need to be objective. Matter of fact, the fact that you're being objective would clue you into, hey, what if I heard someone else say that same thing before? And then you can start doing research off of that. That's how to not be fooled online. Go ahead.
Yeah, wait, also, I think that you have to be realistic. You can't ignore like the facts of that person. Like if there's just instance of hypocrisy after hypocrisy, you can't be like, well, he said this one good thing like 3 years ago, so therefore it's not that bad. Like you have to be realistic. You shouldn't just look for the worst in people, but you also can't just look for the best in people. You have to look realistically at that person's advice they give. Also,
yeah, I mean, I guess
another issue is that when you're listening to advice as the average person, is that you're not really sure what's right and what's wrong, and you're taking a lot of things that people say at face value. And if you're taking incorrect things that people say at face value, which I see happen all the time, black pill, red pill, every fucking type of pill, then you're going to be going down the wrong path. That's the issue.
Right. And I just want to say too that I've watched a lot of this stuff that you guys are talking about, like a lot of these of this guys who talk about like Myron and Fresh and people like that. I've watched much of this stuff, and I just want to say that I think that these guys, they make some good points when it comes to like certain things, but they have other points of view or perspectives that are really out there, that are really really crazy, and that it's like, so then it's like when they do make a good point about something, people just dismiss them and say this is nonsense, this is crazy. So I think if these guys want to be taken seriously, I think they need to focus only on the points they make that are true and that are accurate, and to drop.
Well, the problem with that, is it Alex or ALX?
Alex, yes, Alex.
The problem with that, Alex, is that a lot of these guys is that when listen, again, it comes down to that being objective, right? Because if you're just basically listening with a critical eye, right? You're not gonna. It's gonna be hard for you to be fooled, right? And it's all gonna be hard for you to listen. You would already tell someone is a clown before you even get sucked further deep into that funnel, right? If you're just listening to be objective and critical, right? And it's not because people will label you as a hater or whatever it is, right? Because you're saying, okay, something ain't right. Don't listen to that noise. Those are people who are brainwashed already doing that. Don't listen to that noise. What you have to understand is, okay, if this person is saying this and it's factual, right? And then all of a sudden they say something else that's not factual, then the next step is, well, okay, the factual stuff that they've been saying, do they honestly actually believe what they're saying? That should be the next question to come to your mind. And then when you start doing a little bit of digging, you start to realize, okay, this person is starting to sound like a sneako. Okay, they just say something, and then the next step they're saying, because there's no consistency there. Because if you're objective, the people who are giving you good advice, they're usually consistent in their advice. They're usually pretty much objective in their advice, and they're disciplined in the application of those advice in their lives. You see what I'm saying? Right. So it's very hard. So when they get something wrong, when you see that, right, it's very hard for you to say, okay, I can't take everything you're saying seriously now, because you've seen the work that level of work they put in prior to that, versus someone you take at face value, right, and then they say something completely wild off, and all of a sudden it makes you question certain things. The reason why it makes you question certain things, because now you're looking at their lives and you're starting to notice some inconsistencies, right? Some patterns that don't really make any sense, and that's the shit that then clues you into saying, okay, maybe I don't really want to trust this guy, right? Versus because listen, I'm not saying that people don't give second chances. A lot of people give second chances. That's a thing that happens, right? But the reason why certain people get second chances and certain people don't is because there's a level of work that's already been put in, and it's okay to make mistakes because you're still living life right. Versus someone like a Sneeko who then says one thing 1 minute and then turns around and says the other thing and starts pushing manosphere content. Then it's like, all right, but I can't really take you seriously because I look at your past stuff and you weren't about this. You were never about Andrew Tate. Your past stuff, you were clowning guys like Andrew Tate. So how can I take you seriously now? You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Each one of those scenarios damages your credibility, right? And then eventually you just lose all credibility.
Right. I just wanted to say also too, since you were talking about Sneeko and hypocrisy and all that stuff, and I just wanted to give an example of a hypocrisy that Sneeko has. He, like I was saying before, chastises people who don't want to get, who don't want to have kids and don't want to get married, but yet he's part of the red pill community, and the red pill guys, most of them discourage marriage. They tell men not to get married. They advise men not to get married. They say it's so risky. So it's like, okay, so Sneeko, so if you have such a big problem with people who don't want to get married, why are you part of this community that discourages marriage?
Alex, I think you answered your question.
Right. Yeah.
I think one thing we got to think about with a lot of these guys is that these aren't just friends of yours who are giving you advice. These are guys who have careers where they don't have to go in and work a 9 to 5. They get to live a completely different lifestyle from you because they give advice to people on the internet and they make money doing that. And the thing that I always ask myself is, why does this person deserve to have a career giving advice on this topic? Like, do they actually bring something to the table, like specifically? And one of the things that annoys me about Rollo Tomassi is like, be fucking Rollo Tomassi, okay? Like, he's not really that impressive. Like, I remember I listened to the Rational Male audiobook and I never saw who Rollo Tomassi was. And when I actually listened to him, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the guy who like is this godfather of the manosphere. Like, this guy is me but like somehow goes to the gym even less and has 15 less IQ points. Like, there's no way. So you kind of have to have some quality control. Like, these aren't just friends of yours giving you advice. These guys are like, they're killing it, telling people things sometimes that they don't even do, and it's kind of ridiculous that it's like they're getting away with murder at this point.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's see what some other people. So, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
It's just I mean, these guys, it's very strange, and like I said, there are things that these guys talk about talking points that they have that I think are true and that I agree with and that I agree with. But like I said, when they get into this other stuff that isn't true, that's really wacky and that's crazy and that's really out there, it's like that's where I think then they lose a lot of credibility with most people. So
consistent to begin with, right? Then that would mean that if they ventured into that opinion, you would have looked at their past content and you would have seen, okay, there's some correlation there. I can see why they would arrive to this conclusion now based on what they've done back then. The reason why you believe that this is like their credibility is pretty much over with at this point is because what they used to do before is drastically different from what they're doing now. For instance, you go to Alex's channel. I'm sure if you go way back, there's some stuff that he's been doing that is probably still consistent up until this moment, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying,
Alex
right?
is very consistent.
Creators that you see out there that you watch, right? If you look at the past stuff they used to do, there's a level of consistency. What will be weird is that if someone like Alex decided to do all the little text game stuff and then turns around and says, you know what, I think what would be a good example? Like, hey guys, I think treating women like hoes and 304s, yeah, that's you call them bitches and sluts. That's okay. That's okay, right?
Or like if
Alex started going full crazy red pill, then it'd be like, all right, wait, something's off. And like he used to be based, and now like he's doing this. Like, is there a grifting going on? That'll make you question, right? But the reason why you don't question stuff, like, and I'm using Alex as an example. I'm not saying he believes in that stuff, but like,
he's a black killer anyway, so. Oh no, continue. My bad. Continue.
I'm just saying. Like again, the crux of your question is consistency. You need to be consistent. When there's no consistency, that will cause someone to question certain things.
Yeah, but Duke
has been tipped.
Duke, let me play devil's advocate because, like, on the one hand, I agree consistency is important, but on the other hand, I actually respect somebody a lot when they can be intellectually honest and do a 180 in a day.
Oh, no. Hang on. You're straw manning right now because no one is saying, I just acknowledged earlier that there's nothing wrong with changing your position on things. So I agree with you on that. It's okay to change your position. I've done it. We're not talking about that. We're talking about hypocrisy, which is not changing your position, which is at the same time you're saying one thing, doing another. So we're not talking about someone who believes something, changes their opinion, and then later starts doing something else. We're talking about someone who's at the same time as he's saying one thing is doing another, which is very different than changing your opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess I'm saying it depends how serious it is. It also depends how invested you are into the content creator as well. Like, I feel like it's weird if guys are so invested into a content creator. Like, my opinion of Rollo is pretty neutral. I mean, I guess it is positive, but I'm not like I never got like really deep into his stuff. But it's like, if I see a Rollo Tomassi video, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to agree with some things. I'm going to disagree with other things. And then whatever, if Rollo's like a hypocrite in his private life or what, like, why do I even have time to care about that? Like, I'm not that invested in like Rollo Tomassi's like.
Well, the problem is
you're invested enough to watch a lot of his content, even agree with some of the things that he's
because
making,
I'm
but
saying,
you're not invested enough to notice that. Listen, if you're invested enough to listen to some of the things that he's saying and agree with that, but you're not invested enough to realize that maybe he's not being honest about some of those things, right? Because his lifestyle is different. You're like, that doesn't make any sense, dude. That means you're bought into the program already. You kind of already have a fondness for him, which is fine.
I'm saying I don't even know if I would call myself a fan per se, but maybe I'm like a casual fan. Like, he says good stuff.
Either way,
but it's like, why would I get so emotionally invested to like care if
It's not about being
first of all,
it's about wait, dude, let me make this point. It's about getting up for what's right. In the master, there's a lot of talk about holding women accountable, but no one ever holds man accountable. There seems to be a grand total of like zero. There's like maybe 2 or 3 channels that do that. Duke does that. I do that. I think Ab and Preach do that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other channels that hold men accountable. Really, it's just a bunch of circle jerking. So you have to be able to.
I hold men accountable on my.
I feel like you have to hold yourself accountable. Other people holding you accountable, doesn't work because if you're not willing to change, nothing's gonna happen, right?
Then you get ostracized and outcast from the community or whatever group you were in. Yeah, that means a lot to people because we're social beings at the end of the day as human beings. So holding yourself accountable, having that friend to hold you accountable, it's very important. Just because we don't see that right now in life, because there's not a lot of people who have good friends around them to be able to be strong enough to hold their friend accountable, doesn't mean that when people hold you accountable, listen, holding someone accountable does not mean cancel culture or canceling people or trying to get them.
That's not what we're talking about.
Like that.
Okay.
Right? That's not what it means. Holding someone accountable, it basically say it's like your buddy, man. If you see him fucking robbing a store or something, like, hey, bro, you could get in trouble. And worst off, since I'm with you, you can get me in trouble too as well. How about we don't do that? That's holding somebody accountable.
Well, it's calling out the hypocrisy.
That'll make you a shitty friend. Matter of fact, that'll probably make you an op because you're no good to his life. If you're not there to better him, what kind of friend are you to see your best friend doing wrong and not correct them, right? So it is what it is. When you come to the space, a lot of people get it twisted that when we're criticizing somebody and trying to hold them accountable, we're trying to get it canceled. There are actual channels that do that, and I criticize them because that's wrong. You don't want to cancel people. You want to make sure people learn so they can grow from that. Ultimately, we want more people to grow from their shit, right? And that's the point of holding them accountable. And if they don't want to be held accountable or they refuse that, then guess what? You don't hang out with them anymore, and they don't have friends anymore, and then they go be ostracized somewhere else, and that usually have a deep impact on their psyche later on, unless they're complete psychos. But usually so I would disagree with you there, bro. Holding people accountable does in fact work.
But I feel like you have to hold yourself accountable more than anyone else, right? Obviously, other people should hold other people accountable, but you're in charge of yourself, right? If someone holds you accountable, it's your decision to hold yourself accountable based on that, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like
self accountability. Do you believe in self accountability?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. But that has no listen, when we're talking that's fine. And I see where you're coming from, where it's like, okay, how can you hold someone else accountable if you're not holding yourself accountable? Obviously, you have to hold yourself accountable. But if you really care about somebody, you're not going to want them to repeat a bad behavior that could potentially land them in some serious trouble, because then that means you were never a friend to them to begin with, right? That's just what it is. So it's not about just holding yourself accountable. Of course, as a matter of fact, you are actually indirectly holding yourself accountable for holding your friend accountable, because that makes you sure that, hey, listen, I'm trying to be a good friend. I'm holding myself accountable by holding you accountable to make sure that you're living the right path. So then that way you're not dragging me down into the bullshit that you're getting into. That's the same thing. So it works simultaneously because you're trying to protect your domain. You're trying to protect who you are, right? So that's what it is. If you see your friend spiraling down into a heroin situation right now where they're just using and abusing, you want to hold them accountable, because at the end of the day, that's holding you accountable. They're in your friend groups, and you're some of the people that you hang out with. If half your friends are heroin addicts and you're doing nothing to hold them accountable, what does that make you? Not saying you're a heroin addict, but you're gonna look like a loser hanging around with a bunch of heroin addicts, aren't you? And you're doing nothing to correct that. That's basically what we're saying. You're holding yourself you're indirectly accountable by holding others who are around you and closest to you accountable, because at the end of the day, they indirectly represent you. You don't want your friend group going down the bad too. It's just odd. I see where you're coming from, but
no, I see where you're coming from too. Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Hey, can we talk about the Sneeko video that you guys showed earlier? When he was on Fresh and Fit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think Sneeko's heart is in the right place, and I think it's good that he can disagree with Fresh and Fit, of course. But I think he's wrong, because I think he misunderstands what they're saying. For a young man to have a vasectomy, and then later on when he gets married and wants to have kids, he can reverse it and then have kids. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Vasectomy is not something you want to just willy-nilly play around with, though. Okay, this is this is not a procedure that you're supposed. Yes, you can get a reverse vasectomy, but it's not like it's not something you're supposed to have. This is something that the longer you go without reversing your vasectomy, the less likely it is you'll be able to successfully do it. This is not This is not like a magic turn the getting people pregnant off button. Okay, like this is a serious thing.
People throw it out there so loosely, like just get a vasectomy. It's like, no, there's a lot more that entails than just that service level comment. Like, I feel like people just toss it around.
We're trying to treat vasectomies as some kind of like just one of those birth control pills you can just pop. It's a serious invasive procedure, man. You're getting your freaking tooth snipped. That's serious. You can't just sit there and encourage a bunch of 20-year-olds to do that, especially if they want to desire families at this point. You're sterilizing a group of men that realistically later down the line, even though while they're young right now and they're wild and they're free, it may seem like it's working out for them, but as they get older in their 40s, 50s, and it's getting lonelier in their household, and they can't have offsprings anymore because now their vasectomy they had in their 20s is really hard to reverse at this point. That's gonna be a pretty big problem. You want to talk about suicide rate for men skyrocketing right now? It's gonna fucking explode when those guys get older because now they got nothing.
Well, and you know, our population is definitely gonna take a hit too if that's the case, you know.
No, but the success rate of reversal is very high. Even like
Okay, but like I wouldn't be cavalier about cutting the tubes that go to my balls. Like
Why?
that's not something I want to. That's not something I want to play around with. Because like,
how much you actually know
okay,
about
but
it?
think about why you're doing this.
And I hope he's saying that from a point of ignorance too. Like I hope he sees the bad things that can come from that, you know.
No, science monk. How much do you actually know about vasectomy? Like, have you done any research? Like, how much do you know?
Okay, but like the point. You're just cutting the tubes that go to your balls.
I know,
But
you're
that's
cutting
basically what it is.
balls,
You
but
cut the
like
tubes and then you seal them up. There may be you may have like results in like reversing vasectomies in a lot of cases. But let's think about this from the risk reward perspective. What do you get for having a vasectomy? Okay, like basically you can like kind of skip out. It seems like the whole reason why they're even considering this is because they
don't have to
use
wear condoms, bro. Yep, exactly.
When you can just
a lot of those dudes aren't even fucking like that, to be honest. So you're just wasting your time.
Right?
no,
People
like,
who
it's not
fucking
worth
2
it for the-
times a
for
month,
the
they're like,
reward.
damn,
The
I
risk
should
is
get a
not worth the
vasectomy,
reward.
bro. Like my kid's fucking.
Bro, all it takes is one time to knock over. What are you talking about, bro? You can have sex one time and get a girl pregnant. So
for sure,
What's it matter how
Why
much?
would you just not wear a condom? I don't understand. Like this.
I mean, if you're not
Dude,
pulling
condoms
out,
are
like
great to
if
flip
you,
off. Condoms are not, bro. Plenty
How
of
hard
guys
is
have
it to
used a
pull out?
condom and got a girl
Condoms
pregnant.
are 99% effective when used effectively, and vasectomies are also not 100%.
I mean, what about
And they're always
premature ejaculation, bro? Like, you got to keep that in mind also because.
Well, if you're wearing
wear a condom, if you're a type of guy, listen. Premature ejaculations, I think it happens to some percentage of guys, but not a whole lot. Here's the thing, man. If you're that type of guy that pre-comes before
That
you
always
come,
happens.
wear a condom.
But
That's only if you're raw dogging a girl. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a condom. Also,
That's what I'm saying. Even if you do pull out before your like initial load, right? There's still a chance that there's like pre-cum in there, you know.
Well, not if you're wearing.
But
Y'all aren't having enough.
Well, right. No, I don't
that
advocate for raw dogging. You know, I'm 100%. I use
people's
condoms,
body
bro.
counts aren't high enough for that to even
Pre-cum
matter.
doesn't.
You'd have
It
to
doesn't.
smash
Listen.
thousands.
Listen.
You'd have to
Hold on,
smash
if you
thousands of
understand.
chicks for that to even.
Wait, who's
For that to
that
be
talking?
likely. Oh,
Is that a
I'm
Nick?
sorry. You can go.
Wait,
You really took a picture of Claire?
I thought it was a chick for a second. I'm like,
There
wait
is
a minute.
there is a thing called Google.
That's interesting. Okay. Anyway, also, I feel like we're getting lost in the weeds because that was a very small part of the argument. His larger argument that Sneeko was making is that the stuff that the red pillars like Myron.
Oh, dude, that's my girlfriend, dude.
Talking about, I noticed the stuff that they talk about as attractive makes a guy high value isn't really high value because they talk about very superficial things. And he was saying, hey, maybe it's not all just superficial things. Maybe there's some like inner things that matter, right? So that was the larger argument. It wasn't about vasectomies. It was about the difference between what actually makes a high value man and what Fresh and Fit says is a high value man. And I guess you have to make the argument that he's wrong, that it is all superficial things, which I don't think you're going to
But
make.
most of the video, that was also a part of the video, yes. But most of the video was focused on the vasectomy because Sneeko was like, how could he tell men to get a vasectomy? Because Sneeko confused. He thought he was telling them never have a family ever. He doesn't realize he's just saying get the vasectomy until you're ready to have a family, then get a reverse. And guys, honestly, a vasectomy is not that big of a deal. Like, I don't know how much research you guys
Brad, do you have one?
We're cheaping
Yes,
in it.
I've had
That's
one, yes.
no different than John Anthony lawsuit saying chlamydia is not that bad.
What's that have to do with vasectomy? Now we're talking about STDs.
No, I'm just saying that's like someone taking something serious and trivializing it. That's what
I know,
you're
but
doing.
I'm trying to tell you.
Just wear a fucking condom for Christ's sake. Like I don't know how hard. Why would
But
you
if it can't get
do
reversed.
something? You could replace with a piece of dick. Like, why would you do that?
Some people don't like the feeling of condoms, bro. You know, that's the main
You can condition yourself to that. Okay, hold on. The reason why you don't like condoms is because you jerk off too much. Okay, period. Your dick is too conditioned to physical content. You need to like lay off a little bit.
What?
Okay.
Listen,
I
don't agree.
Bro,
listen, Science Monk, I don't know. I don't know
Your
because
problem is
listen, I don't know
you
because
think you're more
hold on,
intelligent than you are. You need to stop being arrogant, bro. Because this
Swing
whole
and a miss.
I don't think anyone's being arrogant.
He's not being arrogant, Brad. He's
Dude,
not being
Science
arrogant.
Monk,
But
how much research have you done on vasectomies?
I think that's ignorant, bro, not arrogant.
Listen, okay, I'm an engineer, all right? I'm not a doctor,
Let's
so I
have
can't
a
tell
good
you everything about vasectomies. But what I can tell you is getting the tubes to your balls cut for something that you could accomplish, for a goal that you could accomplish with a
that's
piece
the
of
most you know
plastic
about it
is
is
not
that
worth
you're
it
getting the tubes to
in
your balls cut.
any
That's all you know
world.
about
I don't care how low risk the surgery is. You're getting surgery for something you could solve with a thing that you wear. Like, it's not worth the risk.
Honestly, with super gonorrhea and all these
What's the
STDs, listen, with gonorrhea being almost to the point where it's getting incurable because it's one of those things that's evolving past that, right? We'd be pretty soon we probably wouldn't even be able to treat that stuff as normal. And STDs being on the rise, we need to start normalizing the practice of using condom unless you're with a trusted partner. That's it. Like, listen, unless you're with the trusted partner, I recommend most guys should be wearing condoms until that person you can understand, hey, this person I'm probably going to be very clean because they're tested and I trust them and they trust me, right? That's just what it is. Otherwise, I don't encourage guys to be going out there and raw dogging females. There was a video of a dude that literally banged the chick in the bathroom of a goddamn party and probably has a high chance of getting herpes now because she basically came out on YouTube and said, I got herpes. Whoever I was fucking in that video, because it's in my videotape. You probably got herpes too. I'm sorry. We need to be encouraging this. Just because sex feels good because you're not wearing a condom does not mean that's the only other risk associated with it. Pregnancy is not the only other risk associated with raw dogging a female. There's so many other risks that these women could be hiding from you right now. You have no freaking clue.
Okay, can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna respond to Duke first and then Science Monk. So Duke, a man can get a vasectomy to guarantee pretty much a 0% chance of getting a woman pregnant because condoms do slip off and they do break, even though they have a 99% success rate when used correctly. But I'm willing to bet a lot of the time they're not used correctly anyway. They still break off. They still slip or, slip off and break. But a man can get the vasectomy for that part and still use a condom for the STDs. So they could still do that. And also, Science Monk, you said a vasectomy is not worth the risk. Well, so what are these?
It's not worth the risk. It's not even worth the effort of going in and getting the procedure done.
What depends who you are, bro. Some people just want to get it done, and it's their own informed decision, right?
No,
they can do whatever they want, bro.
All right, fine. If you want to get your balls,
But telling everybody to do it is that's a far stretch.
BK, it's got to be Science Monk because I want to see what Science Monk's response to it.
Yeah. Sorry.
What are these risks of a vasectomy?
Okay, so anytime you have any surgery done on your body, there's risks. Okay. First of all, there's chances the procedure might go awry. Something could go wrong. If you get the vasectomy and you don't get it reversed in time, there could be complications from that. Like usually, you can't just wait forever to get it reversed. You kind of have to, the longer they're not sealed, the worse things can get. But the bigger issue that I have is that you're getting surgery for something that you don't need surgery for. Okay. Condoms work. Yes, there's a possibility it might slip off if you suck at life and you don't know how to put on a condom and you can't pay attention to things or think or do simple tasks like keep a piece of rubber on your dick. But most of these things can be solved with just a little bit of attention and learn to enjoy condom sex through not jerking off all the time. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth the risk. It's just not worth it. You don't need to do that.
My position is actually closer to the middle. I think that for some people, I think, look, I will never stigmatize someone for doing a vasectomy. People decide the way the pros and cons, and they think hey, I just really love fucking girls raw, and whatever. I don't really care that much about this.
Fresh does that.
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead and do your thing. It's not something I would advocate for a group of people. It's yo, like if you want to, I don't know, get like a fucking nose job, right? Okay, fucking do it. But I would never advocate for like my general audience. Hey guys, you guys all need to get a nose job. So I do think there's a difference between doing something privately and then advocating. That's the issue. And also, I feel
No,
like
100%. Telling a bunch of 20-year-olds, giving them
Hold on,
misinformed.
Let me just hear what Alex has to say, because I think he's getting on this. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, the point I was saying is there's a big difference between doing something yourself and advocating. Like I do, okay, like I'm on TRT, right? When people ask me, should I get on TRT? The first answer I give them is like, hey, well, why don't you do blood work first, find out what your testosterone levels are at? I'm never going to blatantly tell someone, get on TRT, bro. I'm always going to say, hey, your testosterone might be low, do the blood test and find out where you're at, and then you consider it, right? Because again, for some people it makes sense, for some people it doesn't make sense, but you need to have the information, right? So I think that's kind of like problematic when you're advocating like medical procedures, right, for like a large audience of impressionable men, which are, one, not necessary, and two, this is just not something that I think is good for society if we push that. Like, it's not good for society if more people get vasectomies because we're facing a population decline, right? So that's the first thing. It's not good for society, and it's debatable on whether it's good for that person or not. Like, look, if that person is determined never to have kids, they know they don't want kids, they're 100% sure they're not going to change their mind, right? And also, they just really love raw dog sex, and they're kind of, they don't care that much about STD risk. Yeah, get a vasectomy. In that case, it makes sense. For someone like John Anthony, I think it totally made sense to get a vasectomy. Totally made sense. Fucks countless girls, hates condoms. That's the kind of person that should get a vasectomy, right? But for other people, a lot of these red pill guys are having sex like twice a year, right? And typically it's with their girlfriend. They're not out there slaying it. Where like for them, it doesn't really make sense, right? So I think it's circumstantial. But when you give like kind of blanket advice, like, yo, you guys need to protect yourself, get vasectomies, I think that's problematic.
And when it comes to the girlfriend can get an IUD as well, right?
Yeah, like my girlfriend has an IUD. There's like 0 chance I'm gonna get her pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention, like, because here's the thing, Brad, I'm not completely against vasectomies, right? But my thing against them is like I feel like vasectomy should be something that a man should have later on after they've had maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, and they don't want to risk having more with the partners. That's when it makes sense, because you're already an established man. You already have your kids, whatever it is you need, and now you're just making sure that whoever you get on with next, you have a little bit more control over that freedom, right? I understand what it makes sense for that, but if you're doing like the post that Alex played with Rollo, where he's saying that if you're 20 years old, right, you should get a vasectomy. That's horrible advice. That's
bro, 20-year-old brains are nowhere near fully developed, bro.
Wait, most of those guys are not even having sex.
Gonna be getting by,
dude, most of those guys are not even having sex. They're not getting
exactly.
Laid. You ain't gonna get anyone pregnant if you don't get laid. Okay,
that's what I'm saying. So if you're an older guy, you already established you got too much kids, or you're one of those dudes who can't stop having kids, like a Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon needs a vasectomy. Some of these dudes like popping out babies like crazy.
Wait, hold on, Alex. Couldn't you argue that's bad advice though? Because it sounds like you're saying like, hey, bro, you're not really having any sex right now. You're not really gonna be having sex anytime soon. You're not gonna be having a lot of sex, so you don't need it. I mean, isn't that like, shouldn't the guy be planning to have a lot of sex in the future? Like, shouldn't he be planning to improve and be pulling a lot of girls and having a lot of sex?
It's putting the horse before the carriage. Once you start having sex, then you can consider it, right? But if you're not having sex,
yeah, but
it's kind of like taking creatine before you even start working out, right? Creatine is good once you're lifting weights, but if you're like months or years away from even going to the gym, it doesn't really make sense to take creatine. It's kind of like you're putting the horse before the carriage.
No, bro. It's different. It's different though, because if a guy, hold on, and I got to point out too, we're also talking about different kinds of men. Because Duke, what you said, it does make sense for a certain kind of man. Like if like having a few kids first and then getting the vasectomy. Yeah, if we're talking about a man who's going to be a virgin until he finds his perfect wife and then have a few kids and get a vasectomy, okay, cool. But if we're talking about a man who wants to engage in a lot of casual sex before he gets the wife and kids,
use a condom.
Imagine you pull a girl back from the bar, some girl that you would never want to make your baby mama, and you do use a condom. Imagine the condom breaks or slips off. Now she's pregnant, bro. You're fucked.
The chance of that is insanely small. Also,
yeah, bro.
Slipping off and breaking is crazy, bro.
That means the guy is buying the size. You're buying the size. Listen, if the condom slips off, your size is too big.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're fucking wrong or doing something, bro. If it's just slipping off and breaking.
No, guys, but I'll acknowledge it. I'll concede. I'll
Listen,
concede
a
the part of your
condom,
argument. I'll
realistically,
concede.
bro, a condom, if you got the right fit, it's a very, especially the base around it, it's a tight fit around your dick, bro. That's just what it is. And I'm not speaking from experience. That's what it is. So it's not you saying it's gonna slip off. Maybe breaking, I could see that, but that's if you
Yeah,
have one that's
break.
too small, right? Then it might break, right? But
Okay, guys, I'll concede.
Huh?
I'll concede part of your
Yeah,
argument.
a lot of
I'll
times
give some
guys are
ground.
probably
I'll
buying the
concede.
wrong size. That's just what it is, and it slips off, or the girl pulls it off. I don't know. Sometimes some girls are crazy like that. But
Okay.
I'm just saying
So
that's a different
I'll
story.
concede.
But
I'll concede part of your argument. Okay, let's say the condom has a really low chance of slipping off or breaking, so it's a really low chance of pregnancy. But what if a man decides, hey, even though this condom has a really low chance of pregnancy, a vasectomy is basically a guarantee of not getting pregnant, and then I can reverse it later. And I want to follow up by asking, would it change your guys' mind? Would you look at it different if you knew for a fact that the risk of getting a vasectomy was super low and the success rate of reversal was super high?
I don't want people snipping them on my balls. I'm sorry, it's uncomfortable.
You shouldn't go out there and just tell like people in their 20s to YOLO a vasectomy because they don't want to have because they don't want to use a condom. Like it's
Bro,
the
you're not
wrong
getting the argument,
thing
bro.
for the
You are
wrong
not- You are
purpose.
really bad at this. You are not getting the argument, bro. It
What-
has
what
nothing. It has nothing to do with not wanting to use a condom. It's simply saying, hey, a condom has a low chance, but a vasectomy is
Okay, so your problem is that you think that you're worried that your condom is going to fly off of your penis and with your
99.8, but it's not 100%. You do realize that, right? Two out of 1,000 people who have vasectomies wind up getting their partner pregnant within the first year.
Yeah. I know that. The only guarantee to not get pregnant is celibacy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So vasectomy isn't like a.
But I'm not going to be celibate, so vasectomy is the next best thing.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's your prerogative to do it. I just don't know if I would be pushing.
No. And my thing is like, I don't.
Or your argument, you should wear a condom and get a vasectomy, bro. If you really want to mitigate the chances, if that's your only concern, bro. Like.
No, bro. That's another thing too. Is like, there's a lot of assumption that if a man gets vasectomy, it must be because he doesn't like condom sex. Where does this assumption come from?
Because that's the argument most of those guys are using.
And that's what a lot of people do get vasectomies for, bro. Like maybe not the vast majority, but I know guys who have because of that reason solely, you know.
Yeah, John Anthony straight up told me, he's like, dude, I fucking hate condoms. I love raw dogging, and
who doesn't know that condom sex is not as good as raw sex? That's
everyone
like
knows
common knowledge.
I'll be honest. I mean, I don't.
That's why you have
think
like
they're
raw
much-
sex with your partner, right? Who you trust, you know.
I don't think they're much different, to be honest. I mean, I've had sex with condoms. It feels really fucking good. I don't think there's much difference. I didn't get a vasectomy because I hate condom sex. I mean, maybe some guys do it for that reason. I just got it because when it comes to everybody has a different risk tolerance. When it comes to accidental pregnancy, I wanted the least amount of risk possible, and that's just me.
Yeah.
How many? Let me ask you some, Brad. How many girls do you sleep with on like a monthly basis?
Wait, let me just respond, then you can comment. I think that's like totally fine. Like I think that's like your prerogative, and I would never like stigmatize that decision. Like at the end of the day, if you have a super low risk tolerance when it comes to pregnancies, that's fine. But I think there is a difference between you doing that yourself and you advocating it to thousands of impressionable men. I do think that you have to draw a line there. And also I think that after BK and Cold Steel makes their point, we should go back to the larger thing, which was the fact that he thinks that what a high value man is different than what FreshandFit says. Because that to me is a more interesting argument than like
well, I think something from that too that people didn't catch is Sneako's talking about I travel the world and I see that what women consider high value is not what Red Pill considers high value. But you have to take into consideration, he's talking about traveling the world. So he's talking about women he met in societies outside of the West, like in Japan and stuff like that. Obviously, where these places are still conservative and traditional, yeah, they're going to have a different value set. So what do you guys think?
I live in Miami and have the same exact opinion as him. Or my opinion is somewhere closer to the middle, but I generally agree with him.
Guys like,
yeah, so I live literally down the street from FreshandFit, and like, yeah, like to think that like it's all external things like money, cars, status, and like your inner stuff like barely matters. Like your confidence, your charisma, your humor, your integrity, your communication skills is just beyond absurd. In fact, I would argue that the inner stuff matters more than the outer stuff. I have seen quite a few guys who are like kind of broke, not that successful, but they have mad confidence and like fucking riz, and they do pretty well with girls. But I haven't seen too many rich guys, aside from paying for it, who are just super socially awkward or like crushing it with ladies. Those guys are typically paying for it. So yeah, I would be leaning way towards more of the inner stuff than the outer stuff.
Or even like a ripped dude, good looking, but doesn't have a lot of confidence, right? He just doesn't carry himself well, you know. That's a turnoff for most girls, I would think, right? You would want to be able to back up your good looks and, you know, muscles with confidence.
Well, looks
Because, you
don't
know,
matter
confidence
anyway.
comes down to a lot of things, right? Like how you interact with people, your assertiveness.
Matter. We gotta stop this. We gotta stop this myth that looks matter. That's a coup. People
know.
don't want to do
Looks
the inner
do
work.
matter.
People don't want to do the inner work. They don't want to do the self-development. They don't want to be introspective.
Well,
and look at
initial
their
attraction is a
flaws.
thing, bro.
They wanna- it's
all of it
easy for
matters.
them. It's easy
Wait,
for
I
them
got
to blame it on their
the
looks.
comments. Why does Alex say Myron Pay? He just has no proof. I never said Myron Pays. Okay, this
Whoa! First of all, he's on secret arrangements.
I'm talking about old rich dudes. Myron is not old. Well, he's probably rich, but he's not old. So I'm talking about like older rich dudes. I don't think Myron is socially awkward.
Well,
I think
Fresh
he has,
pays for it.
I think he has probably like a moderate amount of confidence. He has a moderate amount of charisma. He's fairly articulate. Yeah, I don't think I have no evidence to believe that Myron pays. So I was never saying that about Myron. I was talking about like rich, awkward, fucking IT nerds. Okay,
Alex, the one thing I push back on, I think Myron's confidence is based from insecurities. Because like it's literally it's a thinly sheet.
Yeah, partially for sure.
Through that, like that
He's
guy
overcompensating.
Yeah,
he's
there's nothing wrong with
overcompensating, bro. He'll crumble because like his confidence is different from someone who actually. I mean, the guy only had one long-term relationship, and that was like a year. And he's
Well, I
sitting
think
there.
he said he had zero. I don't think he's ever been in one.
No, he admitted that on the Flagrant 2 podcast.
Like he's
Well,
been
I'm
in a
surprised he
relationship.
Yeah,
had
it
one.
pressed him. Because like what's that guy? Who's Andrew? Andrew, I think is his name, right? Andrew Schultz. He's from the Flagrant. He was like, yeah, because mine was talking to shit, and he was like, yo, okay, can I ask a question? How many long-term relationships you been in? He's like, maybe like one, and it was like back in high school. And it's like, okay, dude, like I'm sorry, bro, that's not enough to sit here and be passing judgments on relationships and women.
Okay, let me
kind of have
ask
to go
you.
through.
Let me ask you guys this. Okay, Fresh and Fit definitely have their faults, but can you admit on that podcast Andrew Schultz was the only one who gave them a fair shake?
I think Andrew. I
think No Jumper gave them a fair shake.
I would
no,
say
but I'm talking about the Flagrant 2 podcast. Andrew Schultz was the only one.
Andrew Schultz, yeah, but Andrew Schultz was kind of. I think he was also playing a little bit of because like what's his buddy? Who's the other guy?
The Indian guy.
Yeah, the Indian guy was really going in on him. So he
but
was just
here's the thing. But you guys are talking about hypocrisy from before.
Don't bring this back up again.
No. But I'm happy for the Indian guy. He's happily married. Good for him. But he's coming at Fresh and Fit so hard about their advice. He's been with one woman in his life. I think it was from arranged marriage, which nothing wrong with that. I'm happy for the guy. But then he's coming at them hard about their dating advice. It's like, bro, like.
Okay, fine, maybe, but I've been with hundreds of women. I'm coming at them hard for their dating advice.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot more credibility. You know what I mean? Like, than a guy who's been with one woman from a traditional marriage. It's like, why is he? I was confused about that podcast. Why is he coming at them so hard?
I would say the other point of it though is if you've been in a lot of relationships, they probably didn't work out. So like, how good of a judge are you on it, right?
Well, you have experience. And I think
you do, but what kind of experience? Is it very miserable experience, or is there actually tangible things you took away? Right?
First of all, you want to have miserable experiences, and you want to have good experiences. That's what part of having relationships is about. Because when you go into the next one, you'll know that a lot of the goods are not going to last long, and the downs are not going to last long either. So you can almost take this wild ass roller coaster. And
Yeah, ebbs and flows. Yeah, I know exactly what you
do
mean.
that with the stable, like being in a lot of relationships, right? Because people who are very inexperienced, for instance, if the relationship is really high, you know, they'll fucking stay with it and stick with it. But when it's low, they're booking out of there, right? Or they're fighting, they're arguing, right? So a lot of times having those long-term relationships will help you understand, or having multiple relationships, I'm sorry, will help understand that relationships ebbs and flows. And on top of that, you will know exactly how to handle it when you're on your highest highs and how to handle it when you're on your lowest lows, especially dealing with the partner. So I encourage a lot of people to get as much relationships as possible to be able to understand, like, especially when you're younger, to be able to understand like how this stuff actually works, right? Maybe it's not a long-term relationship, maybe it's one of those short-term flings. Either way, you're gaining something out of it. That's the main thing. It's I would much rather have a guy go through all that bullshit than someone who doesn't and get flipped. That's just a horrible thing. And that's actually what we see happen with a lot of these dudes in the manosphere right now. A lot of them are getting flipped, and instead of like giving it another try and learning from the mistakes, they're instantly running into the manosphere and just gobbling bullshit, right? Because listen, I done been married, I done been divorced, I done been through the system, I done been through all that. But you're never gonna see me out here talking about, oh yeah, women are horrible, yeah, fuck them hoes. I'm not gonna do that, because realistically, I took the time to reflect on what the hell was going on, and I was able to see what the situation for what it is, and based off of that, I'm able to carry on with my life, not only being as content as I could be, but also not transferring any of that negativity to the next relationship I'm in, and to be able to learn from that, because that's how you grow. A lot of people don't do that anymore because they're too scared to look in the mirror.
Well, I think that the RP guys, the biggest thing isn't they are hypocritical in some cases, but their biggest thing is they're hardwired to want to use money and status to attract the women, and then these same gold diggers are supposed to be like wholesome and never cheat on them. It's basically it's a contradictory scenario.
No, this brings up a good point I want to ask everybody on the panel about, because this is something I've thought about. I think there is a difference between a woman being a gold digger versus a woman having financial standards. I think nothing wrong with the woman having financial standards. Like, obviously, she wants to pick a man who isn't broke. He can afford things and take care of her. But where do you guys think it goes from like having reasonable financial standards to gold digger territory?
Because
they don't really have anything to do with each other.
Taking care of her is just another term for being a gold digger. I mean,
no, it's not.
Like
no,
Alex,
it's not, bro.
Alex doesn't quote take care of his girlfriend
because they don't have.
And she does fine, right?
They don't have. It depends on your relationship dynamic. They don't have that kind of. They have more of a. Alex, is it fair to say more kind of a liberal 50-50, like kind of independent kind of thing?
I don't know. She has her own job. She makes decent money. I make good money. Like I wouldn't need to pay for her shit. We get each other gifts. She gets me shit. I get her shit. But it's not like I'm taking care of her. We do nice things for each other. But I think to answer your question, it's not black and white. It's a sliding scale, right? So on the gold digger hierarchy, yeah, like a straight up like, okay, number one will be a chick is like, you got to give me $1,000 to fuck me, right? That's like highest up on the list. Then you go below that, and that's a girl like, hey, listen, like, I don't want money for sex, but if you can just, give me a little bit of an allowance and give me your car and stuff like that, right? And then we go below that, and that's the chick that you're talking about who's like, hey, listen, I only date a guy who makes 6 figures, right? But that's still like on that hierarchy, right? And as a guy, I would always want to avoid like girls who like are like that in any part of that like hierarchy, right? Like Dave Chappelle has a really funny bit where he's like, yeah, now I'm famous, I'm gonna like roll up to a date looking like I'm driving a garbage truck. And then, like, to weed out the gold diggers, and the chick is like, oh, you're driving a garbage truck. Well, I'm not going to go out with you. He's like, I'm Dave Chappelle, bitch, right? There's an element that the joke was so funny because there's a massive element of truth to that. It's like those are kind of the girls.
See, I do kind of have mixed feelings about this, though, because there is some hypocrisy in the red pill space in a way. Because on the one hand, they say, well, the women choose and you chose wrong. But then on the other hand, they might say, well, why won't you date a broke guy? You know what I mean?
It's like, yeah, that's a very good.
Well, it all depends on what their definition of broke is, right? A lot of people they bought into the 6-figure, being the standard bullshit, and everyone's making 6 figures and no one is rich. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? 6 figures is not even a lot of money. So that's the standard.
Like 40K or so, yeah. The average salary is like 40K. So if you make 40, 50K, you're not broke. Okay,
you're above average. A lot of people who are making way less than that, and they're still doing okay. So I would just say, like, listen, understand this. And here's the thing: it all depends on how you present yourself. Because you notice a lot of these guys who are preaching six figures, they always lead with their money and status. Look at Myron Gaines, for example. He's notorious for that. He got invested with that whole Myron Anna Quinn. The Anna Quinn situation that went down, right? And
Oh
he was
yeah.
that's when he got exposed. He was trying to use his podcast to get laid. Matter of fact, dude has been using his podcast to get laid. So what does that tell me? Before that, the podcast, it probably wasn't happening like that. And I actually did a lot of research and found a lot of footage of Myron before Myron got famous from podcasting. And he was kind of like one of those average frat boy dudes that, on the rowing team, whatever it is. So he wasn't really, he was kind of a lame, bro. You would see there were pictures of him stripping at a Burger King, bro. Like him, not like stripping, but like he was like taking off his shirt and dancing in front of his guy friends and shit. It was just a weirdo, normal, cringe dude, right? But because the dude got into a little bit of status, right? And you leverage that. Now he's thinking that that's the end all be all, right? Guys like that are the ones that were envious of dudes who were able to get chicks without having to rely on their status or money. So if you want to weed out gold diggers, if you want to weed out these crazy people that are just gonna use you, don't lead with that. That's just confidence. Go up and talk to the girl how it is. Matter of fact, if she ends up finding out that you have toys that you can play with, and I'm talking about like, you got cars and you can afford certain things that over other dudes that can't, that's just the icing on the cake. Other than that, she's dealing with you for you. A lot of dudes don't have enough confidence in what they have to offer besides their money, besides their status, that they end up leading with those things first because that's going to get them a shoe in. A lot of the guys, it's a low-hanging fruit for them. And that's
think about it like this. Think about it like this. Aside from like the status, I'll let you speak right after that, Stefan. Aside from like the status and the quote-unquote money, does Myron have anything to offer a girl? Well, he has admitted that he doesn't care about women's sexual pleasure, so he's not making these girls come. So there's no sexual element. Does he seem like a fun person to be around? Does he seem like someone who's pleasant, who's good hearted?
Not at all.
No, he seems like a miserable fucking human being to be around. He's always angry and pissed off. So what else does he have to offer besides the money and status, right? So that's kind of what it comes down to.
He's the kind of guy. Hold on. Let me just say this real quick. He's the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy a woman's gonna be with, but it's gonna end up cheating on him afterwards because after she figure out, hey, there's nothing else you got aside from your money and the podcast and all that stuff, and you're a general dick. Like I don't know what else to say. She's gonna cheat on him or leave. That's just what's going to end up happening with guys like that.
Right.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to... Fresh and Miranda. Fresh, without money, he wouldn't have pulled Miranda. But Duke, I was going to say, I agree with everything you said. I was just going to say guys like Fresh, without the money and status, guys like that, they can't accept the women that they could naturally attract without that. And the same thing applies to all the high value dudes. Whether it's like Red Pill or the Kevin Samuels leaning click or whatever, like all of those dudes, they can't accept their natural dating pool. So they're using status or in most cases money, because most of these guys are nobodies. So in most cases, they're using money to make up for their deficiency in whatever other category they're lacking in. Because because I've seen literal incels put on certain videos when I've argued about this, they've literal self-admitted incels have told me, oh man, I don't want to accept a 30-year-old single mom or even a 30-year-old period. And I even went back and forth with one, and he was saying that, yeah, even though he's an incel and he knows that if he was realistic, he would accept a woman in her 30s or closer to his age. But he's telling you he would rather be a virgin or whatever, he would rather go years without sex because he's aiming for some 22-year-old Stacy that he's never going to have.
Yeah, but these incels you're talking to, they're living in a theoretical world in their head and on the internet. I mean, because
even the rich dudes in real life are doing it though. The rich dudes in real life, the regular rich dudes. Taking these young women out, flooding the dating market.
Yeah, but how many girls are these guys even talking to, though?
Even those dudes are going to end up with the single mamas anyways, right? They're sitting there. Listen, Donovan Sharp will call himself a high value man. He's marrying a post-wall single mama. All right, Rollo Tomassi's wife is a post-wall mama, right? So a lot of these guys don't end up dealing with those same type of women anyways, because when it comes down to it, they never really had the skills. Really, without the status, without the money, either way, those are the guys that end up with those kind of women that they get mad about, right? That's why they come online and rail against those women and don't date them, because without the money and the status and whatnot, that's really the dating options for them, right? So that's a big thing you got to understand, because realistically, actually, I got flamed in my chat from my channel when I said this, right? Because I said I don't date single mothers, even though I'm a single father, right? And the reason why I had to give for that, because a lot of women, they got pissed at me. It was like, hey, listen, it's not that I'm not opposed to dating single mothers. I would, but like the thing is, the women I attract, they usually don't have kids. So like if the single mothers were attracted to me, I'd probably be dating more single mothers too. But I don't. Like those are the pool that I don't. The pool that they come to me, they're not single mothers. They don't come to me with kids or whatever it is. So I just date them. What am I gonna say? No to this girl and go search for single moms? No, that's not the thing. So a lot of these dudes, they don't have like normal girls approaching them, normal girls without kids. A lot of times these dudes have to deal with single mothers. They have to deal with post-war women, because that's what their level of status could afford them. You see what I'm saying? Right? It's only, not until they get some kind of extra
Or their
bump, like
level of
maybe
looks.
money or something else, that they
The loser black pillars would say their level of looks. I don't agree. I mean, look don't matter in my case. They're like 5%.
I know. Wait, I don't want to address this. I don't mind man using old tools as opposed to that's class sass. Yeah, I mean, I sort of agree. You can use it as long as you're honest and you're like, you know what you're doing. But also, well, cloud and status are basically the same thing. But that there's also more tools at your disposal. Another one could be really good social skills in game. Another one could be social circle, right? If you have a really good social circle, you can typically date above your, above your whatever level, right? If you have a really good game, really good charisma, you're really fun, you can typically date above your social school. So status is one of them. I just feel like it's the one that's not really achievable for the majority of people. Like 99% of people are not going to have any substantial amount of status. Like, and that's just what it is. So when you're giving them just like, yeah, bro, just status max, bro. Okay, but 99% of people who watch your channel aren't going to be able to do that.
And then you got a personality of a wet towel. That's what a lot of these dudes have.
But the social circle, the social circle one and the game one is something that actually a lot of guys can achieve. So that's the big difference.
Right.
In the social circle, you automatically have high status. The people in your social circle.
Well, yeah, but like all status does though is like so your the woman can brag about you. That's just all it is, right? So I'm with this guy and he's a lawyer, or I'm with this guy and he's a doctor, right? That's all status does, right? It's not it's just something that she can basically brag about to her friends and kind of lord over her friends, because that's what women tend to do when they with the higher status man. But if you're the dude that's chill and funny and whatnot, right? Realistically, being funny is kind of like the middle of the road. If you're ugly, listen, I don't consider myself a good-looking guy. I mean, I got my teeth and I got my nose and whatever it is, right? So, but I know how to make a girl laugh. You want to make a girl laugh? That's it, right? That at least for me, anyway. So, what other skills? It's not just about money. It's not just about status. Okay, status is a bragging right for the woman you're dealing with. That's all it is. This is really all. Oh, I'm with a millionaire. I'm with a doctor. That's it. All right, you just need to literally. Stop focusing on all those other things and start looking at character, or like Alex was saying, game. And oh my God, a lot of people say, "Oh, game."
Personality max.
Personality
max.
Just learn how to talk to people in a certain way that doesn't seem so awkward, right? Doesn't seem like you're forcing it or trying too hard, right? And when you can do that and things just flow naturally,
Exactly.
I think dudes will be all right. But I think we overthink this as men, and we put a lot of projections on these women on what we think they want versus actually just talking to them and just dealing with them and actually figuring out what it is that they're looking for. And a lot of times you start to notice that women would push things aside. Maybe looks was a high thing on her scale, right? That you have to be 5'6", or not 5'6", 6'5", right? And you got to be this strapping basketball player. But she runs into you. You're funny, you're charming, and most of all, you're nice. But you're willing to scrap with anybody who's willing to get down with you. Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, this guy's like, he's 5'7", he's not quite 6'5", but I like the way he says these things. And she'll start looking at other things and making excuses for you. Like, damn, I like this other thing. He's not this. He's not my original type, but he's this now. There are women that do that all the time. As a matter of fact, women are biologically wired to look for other things aside from status and looks.
I want to ask the panel a question. Everybody on the panel. So, okay, we have game, looks, money, and status. What do you think are like the most important and the least important that men should focus on?
That's like impossible
That-
question to answer.
Yeah,
Or like,
Yeah, I have a good answer.
I think with looks, you're limited as far as you can go. You can't go like 5 points above your looks level without like massive amounts of surgery. So like with looks, you can go like 1.5, 2, maybe 2.5 points. So you should max out that. With game, you can go pretty far. Game, if you're like a 4 level game, you can get to like a 9 or whatever.
Hey,
So
step up your shoe game.
But I would recommend focusing on all of them.
Mm.
I wouldn't just
Yeah.
cherry pick one of them. I would do all of them. It's like,
Yeah, I would say it's your total
So
score.
I think it's Can I answer?
One thing I would say, can I say
I
something?
think it's mostly looks.
Let me say something, Coach Still. I would say this, bruh. Work on your style. Because I know it sounds crazy and it probably sounds a little weird, but if you show that you take care of yourself when you walk out of the house, believe it or not, to a lot of women, that's a big notch. That's a big notch. So if you're not the greatest looking dude, work on your style. That's why you see some of these dudes, they do it wrong, right? But like some of these guys who are not really good looking, whatever, they go out wearing these designer clothes and all that different things, right? So they're compensating, but realistically, they're doing what they need to do because they know that, hey, I'm not the best looking guy, but let me show I got a good sense of style. I can match with my shoes. My hat can match with my pants and all those different things, right? So you come out looking stylish. That automatically proves to a woman that, oh, you actually care about your appearance. Now that's a plus. Believe it or not to all women, but to some, that's a big plus. So focus on just grooming yourself, right? You don't have to pay attention to all these like major surgeries. I mean, you go get surgery if you need to, whatever it is. But like ultimately, I would just say take care of yourself and carry yourself well. Carry yourself well, all right? Don't slouch your shoulders like a dumb 20-year-old, all right? You need to carry yourself like a man. Roll your shoulders back, look people in the eye when you're walking, and swing your arms when you're taking those steps. That's really what it is. You dress good, you walk nice. Listen, bro, it can take you a long way. It can take you further than you think. It may not land you the 10s that you're looking for, but you'll get some pretty decent looking girls, bro. I'm telling
Yo,
you.
guys, I want to get into closing thoughts because we're going on 2.5 hours, so I do want to wrap up soon. Let's get into like closing thoughts. Everyone can just go in no specific order. Whoever wants to go first, feel free.
Yeah, there was something I just wanted to ask that I wanted to mention earlier. Alex, you had been talking before about Myron and how he's probably not a good person, or he's not, he's just probably someone who's always like, when you're with him or around him, he's probably not a good person like to be around. I just wanted to ask you and everybody else on the panel, have you ever heard Myron talking about how he thinks that kids, when they're in school, that they should get bullied? He says bullying should be promoted and encouraged.
Yeah, I think that's a really cringy dumb take.
Huh?
I think that's a really cringy dumb take. I think bullying causes people to commit suicide. I think
Yes, it does.
good.
When I hear him say things like that, I just think to myself, is he serious about this, or is he
wants
if he
other
actually
kids to
thinks
go
that
through what he
bullying
went
should
through,
be
that's
promoted
all.
and encouraged?
I can tell you, dude, I've hung out with Myron like one-on-one, like before Fresh and Fit. Like I've hung out with him like several times. He's not that fun to hang out with. He's super petty. He constantly repeats himself, and he looks like he's always pissed off. Like he's not a super fun person to hang out with.
Yeah, no. It's just when I hear that's probably true, but it's just that when I've heard him talking about this whole issue of like kids should get bullied, it's like, are you like a psychopath or a sociopath? Do you actually think that that's a good thing? Like when you see a kid get bullied, do you actually get a kick out of that? It's
Maybe not taken to extremes, but it shouldn't be coddled either.
Yeah,
Well, they can't
I would say
control
this. I
how
would say
every-
bullying is tough, especially for a lot of kids being soft nowadays. But I would say this: bullying is inevitable. It's something that everybody's gonna go through, right? So instead of advocating for bullying like Myron is, I would say like he should be talking about how a lot of people should deal and handle bullying, and basically the kind of person you're gonna be to overcome that bullying. Because I've been bullied in not high school. Middle school was worse for me. When I was in middle school, I was bullied like crazy. But when I started playing football, all of a sudden, like you score a couple of touchdowns and people are looking at you a little different, right? So I would say it builds that inner toughness because listen, you're gonna be bullied in life anyways. When you go work a customer service job, you get a Karen coming through the door and talking all this craziness, right? You got to be able to handle that. And you see there are videos out there, people just completely
I agree.
break it down, and you can tell. So a lot of times bullying is inevitable. accountable when you go through school. Kids are evil. That's just what they
Yes,
are, right?
they are.
I don't say they're evil in a bad sense, but they're evil because they're as raw as you can get without human filters or adult filters, right?
Yeah,
So
but at the same time, bullying
you
needs to be stigmatized. Like you can't be encouraging bullying. Like people, a lot of men commit suicide.
you don't want to encourage it.
Men commit suicide. They shoot up schools, and always
Exactly.
the
Not something you should advocate. That's why I say, just so I clarify, that's why I say you need to learn how to. You need to be telling people how to handle it because it's something that people will do. You can't.
Right.
Like
That's
it's
exactly right.
it's yeah. So I would say he's definitely a clown for saying people should get bullied
I
because
think it's
it is
I
not
think
fun
it's
to be bullied. I
awful.
actually was one of those guys that attempted suicide a while back. Like when I was in
Right.
it got bad. Like that's one of those things. It's not fun. It's not cool to get bullied. But like when you overcome that stuff, it definitely toughens you up. Right.
Dude, but the thing is not that a lot of guys don't overcome it. Like you're talking about the guys who are able to process it and overcome it, but sometimes
that's why it shouldn't be encouraged.
Even
like
a lot of
right.
people don't overcome it. They shut down and they process it and they develop all these like disorders like anxiety and like irrational fears and paranoia because they got bullied. Right.
And
So
Myron has said he's even said that he was bullied when he was in school and that it made him become better. I've heard him say, he's like, I thank these people who bullied me because it made me become a better person. It motivated me. It's like, first of all, we don't even know if that's even true, if what he's saying is even true. But I have never heard of someone who actually becomes a better person as a result of being bullied. I mean, like you said, kids get bullied.
It does make you a better person if you handle it the right way. But
it happens. It goes
but not
both
if
ways.
you don't.
It goes both ways.
No, I like going back to what Alex
said
said.
Yeah, not take it to extreme. You shouldn't be coddled either.
Hold up.
I think there's a better way to make kids tougher than bullying them. Okay?
Bullying,
like
yeah, I know.
sports, like building character, like I don't know, like hiking, like outdoor activities,
sports.
like camping.
If you bully a mentally ill kid,
bullying is like the worst way
sorry.
to try to like fucking improve a kid's like I don't know.
Right.
Fucking,
And it's like,
If you
and to
bully
say
a
that
mentally ill
bullying
kid
should
and
be
he
promoted
beats
and
you,
encouraged.
that's your
That's kind of like the same thing as saying people should never be kind, like to each. Like
no,
to
bullying
each
should be
other.
stigmatized and shamed. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
absolutely, absolutely. But you can't. There's no way to like stop kids from doing that. Like, listen, I got a kid right now. She's going through that nonsense. Sometimes I feel helpless because what am I going to go beat up a kid for bullying?
Right.
You can't stop that. So the best thing you can
No,
do
just
is tell them that this is something that's inevitable. Kids are just gonna do that. But you know, the best thing you can do is give encouragement because you can't completely avoid that. And Alex is right. A lot of kids don't have the stomach to be dealing with that
Right.
now. Like
That's
kids
exactly
are.
right.
There's also like social factors like how like you can affect the opinion of the masses. Like I remember one time specifically, this like older kid was bullying me in 7th grade, and you know what happened? Like because I guess my school was like less comfortable with bullying. A bunch of people like who I wasn't even friends with, who were just like there, who saw it, like came up and stood up for me and were like, hell, if you fuck with him, you have to fuck with us, right? And the bullying stopped, right? So like. But if those kids were under the impression that bullying is good, then it wouldn't happen, right? So you can't have like kind of like cultural shifts,
right?
And like if like all these kids believe that bullying is a good thing, then that's not a good thing, But if a lot of kids are like, hey, bullying is like wrong and you shouldn't engage in it and fuck people up, then that could lead to situations like mine where like people like stand up for what's right.
Exactly. No, and I'll just say, I mean, like from the time when I was a kid, I was never ever told that I should be going around bullying people. I was taught the exact opposite, that bullying is bad, and I was taught to treat people with kindness and respect.
Yeah,
it's like nobody ever said to me, yeah, you should bully people. Like
all right,
I think Myron has good intentions, but he's definitely wrong on that one.
I don't think he has good intentions either.
No, he means well. I think he's wrong, but I think he means well because I think in his head he thinks, well, this would help people, but I think he's wrong, but I think he means well.
I don't think Myron gives a fuck about helping people. No, honestly.
Myron likes leading with his wallet, and he likes being frustrated. Yeah.
Well, you've met Myron.
Yeah, he screwed over a lot of
never
people
met
he's worked
Myron,
with
have
too.
you?
So
Myron is
not
a
good person.
POS.
That might be
Myron is a clear POS.
Let's not forget that 100K party scam that they try to flip on Allende. That was an actual thing. He's a scam. They haven't answered for that.
Yeah.
Right. He seems to also be somebody who isn't capable of like compassion of like for people. Like he's like, like he'll say like, like the world doesn't owe you any compassion or any sympathy. it's like what? So it's like if no one should ever get sympathy for anything. I mean, if you lose your best friend, people shouldn't sympathize with you, or like, I just.
I think like
ultimately, I think that either way, someone who is going to be picking on you, whether they're kids or adult, is inevitable. So I think that even if I don't support bullying, kids need to understand how to handle that because we are getting a little talk. That's a big problem. A lot of people can't understand the real world. Listen, a lot of people we're in a service-based economy now. You're gonna be able to deal with a lot of grudgy, entitled people, and if you can't deal with that, a lot of people aren't ready for the real world. So I think. Instead of supporting bullying that Myron is doing, I say encourage people to understand that there are dicks out there, and you just got to learn how to tolerate them or just be indifferent.
Right, that's right, and it's not right, and it's one thing to teach people, how to deal with bullying, but it's quite the opposite to say that bullying should be promoted and encouraged. Like those are two completely different things.
All right, let's see if anyone has any other closing thoughts.
Thank you.
Let's no worries. Let's wrap up. Duke, you have any closing thoughts?
Not really. My thought is, hey, listen, man. I mean, we didn't really even have a topic of focus today, so it'd be really tough. But I can close it on the bullying stuff. Listen, I would say this: it's going to be a tough world out there, and the world's going to get even tougher. The economy's not looking too great, and it's not going to look great for the next decade. I mean, we're probably going to the situation where we're looking at the lost decade, where the economy is going to stagnate for a while. There's not going to be as much growth, and people are really going to need to toughen up to see some modicum of success, right? So I would say this: a lot of times, even though I would say this, just prep yourself for what's going on, and understand that the real world isn't as nice, isn't as cute, isn't as clean like your average Disney movie. There are going to be a lot of assholes out there, and it's just important to you to be able to get that experience. So whether you get that experience in school or you seek that experience in life, it's something you should understand that is happening out there, and you shouldn't just try to live in some kind of safe bubble. I mean, reality is crazy. I mean, look what happened to Sneeko once he stepped out of his bubble. He became a rational dude, right? The real rational male, not the fraud that Rollo is doing, prancing around on a manosphere, right? You learn how to understand that people live different lives. People, have different thought processes, and not every woman is a monolith, right? So I think that, once you get out there and get the experience under your belt, whether good or bad, I think it'll get you a little bit more in tune with how reality really works.
Cool. All right. Anyone have anything else before we wrap up?
To answer Brad's question. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna. To Brad's question about the looks, money, like what you should focus on and all that. Or to relate it to the social circle thing, because I wanted to touch on that. I would focus on, like, if I had to pick two, assuming your looks are already, like, you're kind of already naturally, well groomed and have a haircut that fits you, all that stuff is already out the window. Probably game or personality, in my opinion, is, but whatever, you game guys love game, so we'll say game. But social circle would be the other thing, because I notice a lot of guys underestimate, and I know there's different reasons for why younger guys don't have as many friends and all that, but I feel like people undersell basically the fact that women, their threshold is the lowest in a warm environment. So all of these guys who don't have the best looks or the best charisma, but they might have an actual good personality, they might have other redeeming qualities. The only realistic environment they can really showcase that to women is in warmer environments for the most part. Because if you're talking about night game,
that's a crazy theory.
And if you're talking about night game and online and all that, the threshold for looks and charisma and game and all that is the highest it's going to be. So all these socially awkward guys who can barely succeed in the warm environments, they're bashing their head against the wall in the hardest environments. That's why like Indian people.
Everyone agrees that it's easier in warm waters than cold. I don't think anyone's like arguing against that.
Well, no, but everybody underplays it. Like, oh, just cold approach, bro, just cold approach. And a lot of the guys that are successful at it are the guys that are above average in either looks and or game, and they're telling these socially awkward guys, hey, just go out and approach all these women. Now, if you have the mental fortitude to approach 15,000 women like Indy and PE, then yes, of course. After that many approaches, you're going to build, repetition. You're going to like recognize social patterns and behaviors in women, and you're going to be able to handle a bunch of different situations. I get it. But I'm not going to advertise guys to do the 15,000. I'm going to tell them, do the 500 warm approaches. Just do 500 over time.
You need to have a social circle. But yeah, I see your point. All right. Anyway,
yeah,
I do want to wrap up because we're going on for a while. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, Duke, for coming on. Check out Duke's channel, Duke and Don. You can see it on there. A lot of good content. I've been on there a bunch of times. We'll be back probably Sunday or Monday night. We're going to have more streams. We're going to drop a pretty cool video on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. Thanks, everyone, for coming on. Have a good night. Take it easy, guys.
Thanks.